reaches 150. Brilliant innings, played by a man who's just in outstanding form. What beautiful innings. And he's showing his bat around the ground. Once again, his teammates are out on the balcony there in the pavilion with smiles on their faces. Terrific innings, full of just beautiful, silky timing. Southey moves in, bowls to him. Oh, that's a ridiculous shot.
I'm
sorry. I mean, if you're Tim Southey now, you say, I'll have my cap and my sweater, and I'm heading off down to the long grass, because that was a ball of immaculate length. It was outside the off stump, and Root has just hammered that between the bowler and mid-on. He's worked it across. That is an absolutely incredible stroke.
Right, last over the day, Bolt bowls to Root, and Root drives through extra cover. It was a wide full toss. He's hit it for 4. Not a great delivery from Trent Bolt. And more chasing for 2 New Zealand fielders, because he didn't hit it perfectly. It was sort of toe end of the bat, but fast outfield and a free swing of the bat. Gift for Joe Root late in the day. Takes him now to 162. Bolt round the wicket to bowl the last ball of the day, and he nearly gets a wicket. Change of angle. Folkes leans forward. It goes past the outside edge. It's through to Blundell, and that has been a superb day for England. They've only lost 4 wickets, and they've scored 383 runs. Hundreds for Pope and Root. 67 from Lees, 46 off 33 balls from Ben Stokes, but ultimately it's been Joe Root's day again. Another fabulous 100 for him, and he walks off undefeated and ready to come back for more tomorrow.
Around the ground. Again, his teammates are out on the balcony there in the pavilion with smiles on their faces. Morning. I know if you're not listening in Nottingham itself, you might struggle to get here in 15 minutes, but if you're in the area, or even if you're not, and you fancy coming down to watch, do come, because it could be, again, some beautiful batting on display today. 163 not out. Let's not forget Ben Folkes, with him on 24 after Stokes got out for 46 with England. Still quite a lot to do at that stage. They're still over 140 behind, but in fact they're now 80 behind on 473 for 5. There's 2 days to go. We saw a bit of turn in that drying pitch yesterday. Nothing too dramatic, but certainly all the talk here this morning, while we've been waiting to come on air, has been about Joe Root and that innings and those strokes and how you try and bowl at him and all those sorts of things. We're going to talk about that in a second. First of all, though, there's not going to be anything to spoil the party, is there? Simon King is there for us in the Weather Centre. Simon, I don't know if you watched the batting yesterday. Just tell us we can enjoy some more today.
Absolutely, yeah, incredible batting yesterday, yeah, and you're right, I don't think there's going to be anything to spoil the party weather-wise. There is quite a bit of cloud out there today. It's not as breezy as it was over the weekend, so just a gentle wind. Now, the cloud will break up from time to time to give some sunny spells, so, you know, continue to dry things out a little bit, but then temperatures getting up to about 18 Celsius. It's through tomorrow that there'll be more sunshine. In fact, there'll be lots of sunny spells through Tuesday, and it will start to feel much warmer as well, actually. Maximum temperatures tomorrow getting up to 22 Celsius, but again, there will be some light, gentle winds. So, yeah, all set fair for the weather.
Fair. And people are getting very excited about later in the week, aren't they?
They are indeed, yes. A hot spell on its way for Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. The peak of the heat actually on Friday, Aggers. 30 degrees, 31 degrees in the southeast of England. Scorchio.
Lovely. OK, Simon, thanks very much. Good to talk to you. Well, at least for the next 2 days, it's going to be good. And there you go, Cookie. So you have your shorts on down on the farm on the weekend.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. Are you playing cricket next weekend?
I'm playing in another game for Eversholt Leavers Stayers School on
Right.
Saturday.
OK.
So
You're not going to miss any straight balls again, are you, early on?
I probably will, and it'll probably make someone's day. And then you will text me and remind me what a bad player I am.
Of course. But what a good player we saw yesterday. I mean, that's a total understatement, isn't it? And we have been sitting here just talking about, well, margins, really. And Jeremy's here as well. He's seen many fine players and innings in his time. But margins of error for the poor old bowler yesterday, when he bowled into someone like that. And we started off by saying, we're playing school cricket and early club cricket. You bowl straight. Because if they miss, you hit. That's the sort of level. As you progress, as a bowler, your line becomes more off stump. And then as you progress further, professional level, it's probably just outside that off stump. So if the ball nips back, you get bowls and LBWs, nips away, outside edge comes into play. But when you're at this level and you're bowling to someone like that, who you can bowl that perfect channel, you can bowl that perfect length, and the ball disappears through mid-wicket. Or through, as that incredible shot at the end there, through straight mid-on. I mean, how... Jeremy, you can start off. How on earth do you bowl to a batsman at this level, on that sort of pitch, in that sort of form?
Well, I think for a start, you do exactly what you've just said, and if it doesn't work, then the only way I would think about bowling at root at the moment is to bowl wide outside off stump and full,
Just ball around.
and set gullies and set an offside field. But it has to be full, so you try and rule out a certain part of the field that he's going to take a great risk, as he did once yesterday. He tried
yes.
to play a sweep stroke and, he got away with it. But I think wide outside off, full, bowling over the wicket, not on an angle. That will just open up that sort of mid-on area a bit more, and then set those gullies and areas that if he doesn't quite get it right, perhaps it'll be in the air a bit. It's a long shot,
Yes.
because we are a player, you're playing against and pitting yourself against a very good player and who's in good form at the moment on a decent pitch.
And you'd move to that tactic. Would you start off in an
I would
orthodox
start
way,
in
just
an
trying to get him out in a normal way?
absolutely.
Yes, OK. Cookie, I mean, you sat here and drooled over that. And it's interesting about, it's not just line, but it's also length.
Yeah, it
isn't
is.
that makes a difference.
I don't think yesterday I've ever seen the margin of error of a bowler as small as it was against a certain batsman. And the enjoyment of that, of watching that for me, and I met up with some people yesterday after, and so many people would just have this biggest smile on their face on watching Joe Root bat, and that must have been an amazing pleasure for Joe Root to give that to other people. But here's the margin yesterday. There was no margin.
No, there wasn't a margin.
If it was slightly full, I mean, I think he was on 6 or 7 and he played a cover drive or Southie. And it was just perfection from there. And I turned to you and said, he's getting 100 here. and that, imagine that, watching a batsman saying he's going to score 100 when he got 10. And it was, and 100 of that kind of quality, of that rhythm, of that timing.
Yeah.
So you're talking about line, you're talking about length. I just can't, I reckon the margin of error was 10 centimetres yesterday, because it was slightly short. He's such a strong player on the offside there, but and I unleashed a pull shot, I think of Henry, where it wasn't, it was belt high at most. I think it only went for one. But he absolutely nailed it out to the deep square boundary. So that's probably, 6 or 7 inches above the top of the stumps.
Yes.
And he's played a pull shot.
A couple of feet short.
Yeah.
From a length.
And then if you went any fuller, he was driving, as you're saying, great stride into the ball. So
Big forward stride, big backward stride, a tremendous
Lovely
footwork.
balance too about it all.
Oh, it's been. Let's hear from him. He's been busy this morning already, has Joe. He's been speaking with Alison Mitchell.
Well, it's the man of the moment again, Joe Root, and congratulations on yet another 100, Joe, and your fastest for your 27 Test 100. You bounded down the steps. Did you feel as if it was going to be your day again?
I was just really excited to get out there. I thought the guys played extremely well up to that point, but brilliant partnership on. It obviously was a nice wicket, seeing the game unfold as it did, and it was just a nice chance to get something together with Ollie, and I thought he played beautifully. It was so good to be at the other end, watching him go about his thing. It's been a long time coming in my eyes. You see the quality, the hard work that he puts in. We all know what a great player he is, and the joy from the rest of the group and myself, and seeing his face when he got to 3 figures was really special. So, that made it even more fun for myself out there.
Yeah, I know you prefer talking about other people rather than yourself, but the joy on your own face, well, first of all, a little bit of sheepishness for the inside edge when you got the 100, but you were laughing. Did it almost feel like club cricket in that moment?
No, it just felt great fun. This last couple of weeks has been really, really good fun, and it felt exactly like that yesterday. As I say, when you're bouncing off the guys at the other end, it does make it that little bit more special, and we just got in some really good rhythm yesterday. We knew how good a wicket was, and it was about going out there and trying to close down that total, and we still feel we're in a really good position. So it was yesterday, my mindset was all about trying to where the gaps are, how am I going to score my runs. It wasn't about surviving, it wasn't about anything other than how can we put pressure back on their bowlers, how can we find ways of scoring on this ground, on this wicket. And it's such a fast scoring ground, it's so hard to keep batters quiet if they get in and get going, and using that to your advantage I think is really important here.
So with it being your fastest test ton, were you consciously looking to score fast, or was that just the way it naturally happened because of those conditions you're talking about?
I think because you're aware of those conditions, I don't think you go searching for it, but it gives you the confidence to go and play in that manner, and to go with it and know that you can put pressure back on the bowlers. And it can be very difficult sometimes if you're used to going at 2.5 and over, like a lot of the top players are at this level. Trying to shift that and put pressure back on in a different way is quite important. So yeah, I think more than anything, it wasn't really about trying to make an individual statement. It was about how can we really put the game back onto New Zealand. How can we take advantage of a brilliant wicket? How can we make sure we still get a chance to win this Test match? And without looking too far ahead, it was about ball by ball, being positive in a controlled manner. Well, for the majority of it, anyway.
I was going to say, and did Ben's innings? Did he discuss with you how he was going to play when he came out? Did it take you by surprise? Were you expecting that?
It didn't take me by surprise. We had quite a fluent conversation, me and Ollie, talking quite frequently. Ben came out, we've obviously batted a lot together. The only thing he said to me was, you do you, I'll do me. When he says something like that, you just leave him to it and you let him get on with it. But you just see how destructive he can be. If he bats for 2 hours this summer at any stage and he's playing like that, you're in for a treat watching. So it's great fun to be out there, seeing it at the other end, and I'm really looking forward for that day when it comes, because we're all going to get some serious box office cricket.
On Ollie Pope again, we saw the joy in the dressing room, and he's made a point of saying he's never felt more supported. How crucial is that for him in this new position as number 3? I
think it's huge, and it's just great to see him playing with a smile on his face again, loving it, and I think it will have meant a huge amount to him, to do it so early on, batting at 3. It is a big change for him, but it's one that I think he's taken to really well. Not just because he scored 100, but the mindset and the way he's sort of been around that decision and his approach to the game, even off the back of last week, I thought coming into this week he looks really assured in himself and confident, and that's such a nice thing to see and a very promising sign for everyone.
What about this match then? 2 days left, 80 behind on first innings. What is your best route to victory?
Well, I think we've got to go and try and make it count this morning. But the rate of scoring throughout the whole game, I think, still allows for every result to be possible, which I think is really exciting and sets things up really nicely for a very interesting Test match once again.
Final thought, you managed to score your fastest Test ton with your magic bat. Did you see that clip that went viral of you leaving your bat hovering? Yeah. How do you do that?
I can't tell all my secrets, can I? But sometimes you're just trying to keep yourself interested or concentrated out there. Found myself trying to balance it, and saw it happen for once. So yeah, strange, wasn't it? But maybe we'll get that out at some point later down the summer.
The magic of Joe Root. Keep being magical, Joe. Well done.
Thank you.
He'll be in the magic circle before we know it. It is a funny little clip. You can see it around and about, I'm sure, but the bat literally does stand upright at the non-striker's end. Had to keep myself interested. Well, we were interested yesterday, and Joe Root will be coming out again in a few moments' time. It is all up for grabs still, Jeremy. 80 is New Zealand's lead still at the moment. As we know, one more wicket, and they're down to those bowlers.
Yes, all options.
Yeah.
I think from what we've seen, I personally have a favoured way that England might go about it. But obviously, if they want to carry on batting and they can push ahead, that's one option, and they might even get 200 ahead. That obviously depends a lot on Root, how he plays, and so on. That's one way. That's the more obvious, traditional, orthodox manner. You could perhaps they lose wickets this morning and it's all evens and let's go again. That's a little bit harder, I think, in the conditions we're seeing. I would prefer them to go the last option. I'd like to see them get another 30 and declare.
I thought you might go funky on me.
Well, I don't know whether it is a little bit strange I know, but it's certainly consistent with the way they are saying and talking about playing.
And with New Zealand behind in the series.
They get two options then. They can bowl New Zealand out, or they can then chase down. It puts pressure on New Zealand to declare if you declare behind a bit.
It does.
You're not too far behind, but you are, and saying, there you go. And every option is with the team batting fourth from what we've seen here so far.
Very interesting. Do you think McCullum might go down that route?
Very, very much so.
There we go. OK, Jeremy, we'll catch you later on. Thanks for that. All those options are available. It's very rare you do see a team declare behind. 3 Test series. New Zealand needing to win. In a way, they need to not throw a carrot, but they need. It's in the New Zealand's interest to keep the game open. Put it that way. What do you think, Cookie?
I don't think England are going to declare behind when you're 1-0 up in a series, in a Test match. If this might have been a county game, you might have those options where there's points on board and you think, well, it's worth the gamble. But I think 1-0 up. I think if England are 1-0 down, that'd be that is possibly good, because that means New Zealand have to back for quite a long time on this wicket to get the game safe. Because actually, you bat for 3 hours. The last 3 hours on day 5, you could score a lot of runs at Trent Bridge. You see how many runs are scored in a one-day game here, how hard it is to stop the scoring. I know day 5 and you can be a bit more defensive with Fields. I think England are hoping that Joe Root gets in a game, which I know it sounds silly, but I think that'd be one of the hardest things to do. How well he played yesterday. It was an extraordinary level yesterday.
Yes.
How he get to... And just everything was perfect from pretty much ball one, his timing, his rhythm. To get back into that will be quite interesting. But if there's a man who can do that, it will be Joe Root over the way he's playing.
He'd just like to have kept going. I think he was in such a rhythm. And we talked about the footwork and how far forward he gets and how far back he gets. All of these things together have just created this wonderful player. And it's so difficult to compare generations. Of course it is. But when you add in that sort of shortened form of the game mix into the modern Test cricketer, you get shots that were never played generations ago. Now the first ball is bowled by Southey, who took a bit of a hammering yesterday, and the first ball's tickled away down to fine leg. They take a single. Root already is underway. So England are 79 runs behind. They're 474 for 5. Root is 164. He'll have his eyes on a double 100, and Ben Foakes is on 24, but poor old Southey yesterday, he lobbed the towel in after that over. What else can you do? He bowled 2 just about perfect balls, one whistled through mid-wicket for 4 for Root's 150, and the next one was just pounded down the ground between the bowler and mid-on. That was as dismissive a shot. Incredible stroke. Southey's on his way again, bowls, it's full, and Foakes drives him for 4 through extra cover. Long swinging half volley, a bit of width, and Foakes is on it straight away. He likes to get on that front foot.
Lovely start from Ben Foakes. And the scoring continues. I think Southey probably thought, I can just get Joe Root off strike and have a go at Ben Foakes, and then he's answered. A lovely cover drive, you're right, it was a full and wide one, but still got to put him away, and the runs just keep on flowing.
2 slips and a gully waiting. Southey's on his way again. Bowls again, it's full, and again it's driven. Not quite the timing. It was a misfield. Misfield at mid-off. I was going to say it'll only be 1 this time. That was a ghastly mistake at mid-off. I can't see who it is. He's got a cap and sunglasses on.
I think he's a replacement fielder.
I think it is. I think it's a sub on for Jameson, who's not going to bowl today. That won't do Southey's humour any good at all. I mean, he had a sort of an Angus Fraser type tantrum yesterday. He sort of finished off his day, combusted out there. Was last seen leaving the field. In goes Southey again. He's there and he bowls. That's a better ball. It swings a good length, and Folkes has dropped it this time back to the bowler.
And he's very placid guy, isn't he?
Yes,
Tim
he is.
Southey played at Essex, one of the good guys
Yeah,
of cricket, and often see him chatting to the batsman, and it will be entertaining. Whatever he's saying, it will be entertaining. It will be to the point of the game, but really good fun. But yesterday, the jumper grab.
Southey again bowls. That finds an edge. Just runs away down to gully.
And the kick of the turf was almost Stuart Broad-esque, wasn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I felt sorry for him. He really bowled a lot of overs yesterday. He kept running in. He's got 0 for 128.
And actually, he actually has the only one bowler who actually troubled a little with Joe Root. So he was quite clever with this seam, wasn't he? He was trying to get towards the end, trying to get a bit of reverse. It wasn't reversing, but he was trying to bowl it to give the option to revert. Do you know what I mean? Trying anything to get.
Leg stump now, flicked away through mid-wicket. Chase for the fielder from mid-on, who actually gives up for the fielder coming round from square leg, and Root gets his head down and runs for the third. Well, that's an interesting opening over. 12?
12 runs from it. Southey's last 2 overs yesterday went for 12 and 13, so 37 from his last 3.
Oh dear. He is such a likeable man. You've got to feel sorry for him.
And a brilliant bowler.
Yes.
So I was saying he was trying stuff, wasn't he, with the seam. He was trying to get any kind of movement. And he got a couple through Joe when he was trying to cut, wasn't he? A couple he cramped in for room. And you could see his mind working. Think, how can I get this out? And by trying that, though, what it did do was give Joe Root more scoring options as well. Not that he needs any more scoring options, so...
No. Well, Trent Bolt's going to have a go from the far end. Actually, he bowled really well yesterday. He's easily the pick of New Zealand's bowlers. He's so skillful. He's going to bowl from the pavilion end, but, well, we wondered whether England would pick up the same rhythm. And, Root's only picked up a single out of that, and the rest was scored by Folkes, but England only 68 behind, and obviously I think they're going to really try and press on and get a lead and put pressure on New Zealand that way, I suspect. It is the more orthodox way of doing it.
And there's no doubt Stuart Broad will come out and play some...
Oh, yes.
Oh, God, we've got Joe Root umpiring now as well.
he's giving Folkes his guard.
I think, is it Rifle, the other end,
Yes.
isn't it? He was turning around discussing something with Bolt or upstairs.
Well, that doesn't happen very often.
Folkes was stood there with his bat waiting, so Root said, well, I'll do it then.
It might happen in club cricket every now and then, but you don't see it often happen in a test match. Yeah, yes, he gave Folkes his guard. 485 for 5. Here's Bolt's first ball of the day. Runs in smoothly, bowls outside the off stump, and Ben Folkes lets it go by. And all the talk about Root, he was speaking to his father, Matt, during the tea break, which is great. There was just so much preparation goes on behind the scenes, and because he watches a lot of Joe batting, obviously. I wonder how he assesses the way he's playing at the moment in terms of his whole career, if you like. So, which I'll find out from Joe Root's father during tea time. 485 for 5. Bolt again runs in, bowls. Nicely played by Folkes. It's played up to New Zealand's captain Latham up there at mid-off. We'll be thinking, oh, thanks very much, William. Certainly gave me the short straw here.
He probably wasn't thinking that when they got 550.
Very true. Very true.
He would have been very smug, I reckon, at that time.
Yeah, it has been an incredibly quick scoring game. There are lots of seats here. It's a Monday, of course, so it's not going to be the noisy, packed out full house of Saturday and Sunday, but if you want to come and see some cricket, you'll certainly get in. Bolts, bowls, and there's more runs here. As Folkes turns him through square leg. Down to the boundary she runs.
New Zealand have got to be careful, haven't they?
Yes.
Because it's very easy just to wander into a session and say, well, it's a flat wicket, we can't stop the scoring. Then suddenly they're behind the game. In that third innings, that pressure on their back, we'll just bat out, we'll be fine. And suddenly lose 2 wickets early on, because it can happen. Like, no matter how flat the wicket is, when the results suddenly change.
Bolt bowls short this time. Folks sways out of the way.
Do you know what I mean? In terms of their 550, the pressure's all been on England, and they've been enjoying it. And then the latter half of yesterday, when they couldn't stop the score, and then if that momentum carries on today, you know, that can carry into your batting.
Yep.
And then that is the danger zone, isn't it? That is the danger zone of this kind of a 5-day evolution of a game.
To 64 behind. And already you feel pressure certainly building on New Zealand's second innings. 489 for 5 as Bolt bowls another bounce, a quick one too. And it's taken by the wicketkeeper, Blundell, jumping both feet off the ground. 489 for 5. Ball's whistled round Trent Bridge already this morning. We've only had 2 overs. 64 behind. Sun shining.
I met the umpire, Paul Pollard, this morning.
Ah, well, I'd know him as the batsman, Paul Pollard.
Yeah, I'm not that old.
Ooh. That's savage this time of the morning. Thank you, Andy, for nodding. Here's Bolt. And, folks was tempted there a moment and allowed that to go by. Outside the off stump. And it's the end of the second over of the day. And England have moved already from 473 to 489.
Yeah, I decided to get my car washed.
Oh.
And he was in the queue in front of me, getting his car washed. I had to get it because I gave Michael Vaughan and Tuffers a lift back after day 2, and he said, God, this car stinks of a farm. So I thought, well, if he's thinking that, I'd better get it cleaned. So I got it cleaned, and then as the car in front was Paul Pollard, so we put the world to right about cricket and Trent Bridge, and actually I left my shoes there.
He was a nice player.
Was he?
Yeah, played well. Yeah, left-hander from memory.
Yeah, he was left-handed.
Yeah.
The way he was shaping up, telling me the
yeah.
shots he would have played. I assumed he was left-handed, but then I left my shoes there, so I had to go back and get them.
Your shoes in the car wash?
Yeah, so I took them out because I thought, they let them clean the floor. I had them in the back, so I put them out. So I must remember them. But then I was into discussion about.
Here's Southey on his way. Bowls. Oh, no, what's this? What sort of shot is that? Joe Root, to what, the second ball he's received today, has got into position and he's reverse scooped Southey, and they're just waiting to see if that's 4 or 6. The signal hasn't been made yet. It's gone way over the slips. What sort of shot is that? He's just going through the card. Incredible shot. That's the second ball he's faced. It's 6, isn't it? It is 6. It's gone over the boundary. What is that?
There's stunned silence in the ground. There is stunned silence. Have we just seen that?
That's 6. Up go the umpire's arms. Well, I think Mitchell's got his arms folded. I mean, people are saying, what was that? What's he going to bowl now? He goes Southey, bowls a Root, plays no shot. And allows that to go through. Well, second ball he's faced of the day, and he's just reverse ramped him over slip.
I just want to. I'm going back to the bloke on your shoulder there. When Southey's running in, and the bloke's saying, "Oh, I reckon you could reverse sweep it." And I mean, when do you say yes? I'll do that. When do you say like after 10
minutes?
Well, it's
good asking me. I couldn't play that shot in a million years.
Don't look at he's looking. Salts is looking at his stats.
Southey bowls. It's pitched up and flicked away into the onside, challenging mid-on. Down he goes, Fields.
Has anyone ever reverse swept a seam a second ball? Is that what is coming up?
For 6.
That's hard to look at, but it's Joe Root's first 6 since the first innings of the Chennai Test in February of 2021.
I don't think that was through a reverse ramp either, was it? What a shot that was. Sorry. Poor old Southey. I mean, he would say he boiled over last night. What he's thinking now is he just loosening up.
I'm more worried about what Jeffrey Boycott's thinking.
Well, Southey bowls outside the off stump. Folks mistimes a drive this time. A thick inside edge as Southey gathers it and tosses the ball away for someone else to polish. 496 for 5. England just 57 runs behind. I'm playing like this. You've got to bat on, haven't you?
Yeah.
Go. Just build a lead.
Well, it won't be long, will it?
No.
Do you know what I mean? The runs are coming at 4.5, 5 runs and over easily. By lunchtime, they're still going by lunch. They have a 40-run lead.
Southey again, bowls, a little width there. Folks ignores it. Collected by Blundell. I mean, that... Seen some very strange things in this game over the years, Andy. Cool.
It's not going to stop when Broad comes in, is it? Or
No,
they're
but
going to carry on.
what a shot that was. I mean, it's just...
Maybe-
Can you play that shot?
No.
You can't play
No,
it.
I can't
You
play it.
actually, I mean, Alistair
Physically,
Cook,
I cannot
highest scorer for England for all time, etc., etc., etc. You can't play that shot.
No, I've played 2 or 3 scoops, I reckon.
Now, this is outside the off stump, moves away. Folks ignores it again, so Root will be on strike.
I can play like you swap hands. I think I did it in a test match at Lords
Right.
against Sri Lanka, where you kind of like I scooped it and I tried to scoop it over the slips. But I mean, I'm just got the bat there and just trying to tap it. Got the toe and it looped for 2. But he's actually managed to, get full front on, hasn't he? And use the pace and hit the ball like that. I mean,
The Southey must have seen him get into position. I mean, he must be in about his delivery stride. I know he's very quick on his feet, but there must have been a point where Southey knew that he was getting into position.
Something's happening.
And it was just all too late, or perhaps he didn't believe it.
Well, I think, but the odds there when you do it. I mean, if he could have bowled maybe slightly fuller and straighter, but it wasn't that bad a ball. It was just missing off stump. But
Could he have stopped in his delivery stride and not let the ball go?
you're the bowler.
I'm just thinking. I mean, it happened so fast. He jumped. I'm not sure Southey
That's on the
could.
stumps. It's on the stumps.
Yeah.
He would have, I reckon, clipped the outside of our stump if he'd have missed it.
Root's on strike. Bolt's on the way. Is there any bowls a bouncer? Root just sways underneath it. He starts to play it wasn't a wholehearted pull shot there. He withdrew the bat. There's 2 men out. 496 for 5. I don't think he'll do that to Bolt. I mean, the thing about Southey's of a pace and of a type where you know that probably 5 balls out of 6 are going to be in that area, in that couple of square feet.
Certainly early on,
Yes.
the first few balls, he's going to try and challenge, as we were saying, just challenge Joe Root on that off stump.
Yeah.
So a second ball he bowled, he'd probably thought, we'll keep doing that.
Amazing. Bolt left arm over bowls and Root plays so late, steers the ball down the third man. The fielder's rushing round, dives, and he's taken the ball with him. A great cheer breaks out. Oh, come on, if you're in the Nottingham area, come down. Come on, watch this. 500's up. It's special. I mean, it really is very, very special. 175 not out to Joe Root.
He managed to time that ball. I know it sounds a silly thing, but actually generate pace on it, running the ball down the third man. There is a very wide third man. Probably you'd say it's between deep backward point and the third man, but he's managed to gather pace on that to get it to go for 4.
Bolt again, the sun's out, bowls. Oh, this time he tries to repeat the shot, more or less, a bit closer to him. And he missed it, it's taken by the keeper. Bolt follows through there. It's just a very rare moral victory to get the ball past the bat. It did cut back a little bit, but it was a little bit close to Root for that shot. 500 for 5. He's 175. England now 53 behind. We're only in the third over of the day. How many runs have they scored so far? I can't talk and do maths at the same time.
27 from 21 balls.
Bolt over the wicket, bowls, and Root's on the front foot. Turns the ball into a gap in the offside. And takes a single. 501 for 5 is 176 not out. If you're Ben Folkes at the non-striker's end, I mean, what a privilege just to be standing there.
It was a privilege just to watch it, let alone be
That's
batting
out there
with
with it, just at such close range, and you'd pick up the New Zealand body language and comments and so on as well, wouldn't you? There were a whole thing. What a theatre. In comes Bowles. Bowles to Folkes. He lets that one go through. Quite happy to Root have the majority of strike, I'm sure. 52 behind. 501 for 5 in the 4th morning of this second test match. Is a little bit of a break before the Headingley test starts a week on Thursday. So we can enjoy the nice weather. It's coming up.
It'll be raining by the time we get there, though.
I don't know. Let's hope not. Folkes over his bat is the last ball of this over. Bolt from round the wicket, bowls, and he turns that away off his hip. He's going to keep the strike. The fielder trots in from the deep square leg area. And umpire Rifle, who always looks rather weary, wanders off to his position at square leg. 502 for 5, 51 behind. Root 176. Folkes has 40. And drinks being brought out to Southey there. Takes a quick swig. A little bit of a conversation going on there, three-way conversation. Latham, the captain. The fielder there at mid-on has just wrapped his arm around Southey as if to say, look, keep going.
Well,
and good luck.
That's Matt Henry, isn't it? I think he's probably thinking, if I show a bit of support now, I might not have to bowl for a couple more overs. It's going to be his turn in a minute.
Yeah. Folkes on the strike. And goes Southey, bowls short. He pulls out through mid-wicket. Ball heading towards that boundary. Long chase for the fielder, scampering round. He will get there. And so Folkes takes 2. Didn't quite come out of the middle of the bat, that. 504 for 5.
I think New Zealand now to Ben Folkes have to go 7-2. I think they've got to hide the ball to Ben Folkes. I think that will... The only time England really had any control against New Zealand when they were batting was when Jimmy Anderson did it to Mitchell and bowled. You know, you need good control length, and Southey can do that. I think they're going to go the other way. Well, they're going bounce. They look like they're going bounce
the opposite.
they're going bounce the warfare, aren't they?
They are.
I think
They're going to say, right, we're going to bowl short at you from round the wicket. These two put on 99 now. And so, yeah, look at that leg slip coming in. Square leg, deep square leg, long leg. Third man fine for that ramp shot. I'm not sure Southey's got the pace for this, but we'll see. This is where they want Wagner roaring in, bowling his left arm short stuff. But OK, so it's a 6-3 leg side field. Fine third man, backward point, extra cover. I'll give you the leg side in a second. As Southey runs in, round the wicket, it's got a bowl short, and Folkes hits him away for 4. This is a big risk.
Yeah, look, you see things differently, don't you, from up here, from when you're down there. But when you do
Under partnership.
When you do go bounce the warfare, the one thing you are risking are runs. Even the top edge over the keeper, if you miss it, you miss control as a batsman. But you know, I don't think England are just going to, against this pace, going to just duck them, are they? They're going to continue trying to play.
Well, Southey's in his 31st over. He's got 0 for 144, and he's coming in trying to bowl bouncers. Oh, we'll see. There's 3 men out in the deep now. Southey runs in, bowls again. It's short. Folkes knows it has to be, and he hits that hard, probably too hard, straight to the fielder, a backward square leg. So there's a fine leg, mid wicket. There's a how you describe?
I was waiting to see how you're going to describe
Mitchell's position there. I don't know how you describe that. That's sort of
deep backward square leg.
Semi-deep backward square leg. It's halfway to the boundary.
On the one.
Yeah, but
deep leg gully.
If you turned it around the corner, you could get one to him possibly. 2 sort of short catching mid wicket. Southey again runs in, bowls outside the off stump. That'll be 4. Terrible ball under the circumstances. No one could stop that. And Ben Folkes reaches 50. And all the focus has been on Joe Root, of course. Now, how well Folkes has played too, and he did at Lord's as well. It's his second Test 50. A nice gift there for him, just 2 men in front of square. In fact, 1 in front of square in the offside, and Southey there dropped that short and wide of the off stump. And that was a real gift. Southey again runs up, bowls to Folkes, short leg side, hit hard. Again hits Mitchell there at that rather unusual position, but it has hit him twice, so it seems to be the right spot.
Another little tick for the England management, I think, on this. You know, I'm sure Ben Folkes, when that squad was going to get announced, would have been thinking, what is the thought of the keepers? You know, there's been everyone's got their opinion on who should keep for England. There's a number of high quality players, even Johnny Bairstow. You know, thinking, would he get the option to go go back to 7 and keep?
Southey again bowls very full. It's the bluff, and he's driven through mid-off. Fielder's chasing after. It's the poor old sub again. He might get there. No, he's not. And he hammers the ground with his fist. Southey looks like he could combust at any moment as he takes his cap and sweater from the umpire. The ball's gone round the park in these 20 minutes. It really has. And England now are just 37 runs behind. And folks, 54, route 176. Enjoy it, Alistair. I'm sure you are. And then Isha's coming in here.
I'm certainly enjoying it. I'm just going back to Ben Folkes. Very easily, you know, he would have been. I think he'd have been thinking, does McCullum rate me? Does Stokes rate me? Who are they going to go with? Or, again, not even in the media since McCullum's taken over. There's you know, Joss Butler, who he's a big fan of, and actually they gave him the option. Actually, speaking to Ben Stokes, he says he's the best keeper. I want him in my team. He plays. End of. That was what Ben Stokes told me, and he would have definitely said that to Ben Folkes. And the confidence that gives you as a player, the kind of the backing. I'm sure Ollie Pope feels the same, and he's he's not worried about his place. He can just go out and play, do his job with the gloves, and the runs he scored the last 2 innings have been brilliant.
Good morning to you, Alistair. Good morning to you, Andy.
Morning, just quickly, Ben Folkes' 50 came from 90 balls with his 9th four. He's since hit his 10th, his third 50-plus score in tests, the other 2 in his first 2 matches, so this is his first 50 for 11 tests, but he's now 86 runs unbeaten since coming in the second innings at Lord's.
I'm enjoying this New England. Joe Root on 176 then, Bolt steaming him round the wicket. Root dabs the ball. That classic drive, doesn't get the timing on it, now just observing his bat as he plays it back to the bowler. He's on 176, Joe Root. 516 for 5, trailing by 37 England, folks, 54. Joe Root, this test match is like a magician, waving about his wand, ordering the ball to go wherever he wants it to go as Bolt bowls to Root, who's dabbing at the ball on the back foot this time, guiding it to gully. So a bit of respite for the New Zealand bowlers after what has been an entertaining start to the day. Exhilarating stuff here at Trent Bridge. Plenty of cloud cover. That breeze going nicely across the ground. It's a tiny little gap in the clouds, tiny bit of blue in the distance as Bolt circles. He's got a slip in a gully, a man out at deep point, 2 men back in the deep on the leg side as bowls fall. It's up in the air and taken. Joe Root looking to drive aerially, and it was Tim Southey to his left. As we hear the rapturous applause from the fans here at Trent Bridge for what has been a staggering innings. Joe Root's fastest century, but he smashes the bat into the air. He's frustrated with himself as he walks off here at Nottingham. 516 for 6.
Had to end sometime, unfortunately. He absolutely nailed the cover drive. Really good catch low to Tim Southey's left, but what an innings. A genius at work at the top of his game, and such a silly game, isn't it? He's walking off disappointed. Only cricket can do that. You score 176 of the best runs you'll ever likely to see, and you go off disappointed. You think I left a few out there, but what a brilliant innings. It was a pleasure to be able to sit and watch that.
Yeah, he turned to raise his bat to the crowd, who had all got up on their feet to applaud him as he's now disappeared into the dressing room. But that's the first time we've seen him angry in this test match, or the last couple of tests, in fact. Not even when he dropped that catch when Darren Mitchell was on 3 did we see a stern face, but there he was seriously disappointed, livid with himself. And he broke into a slight smile as he turned around, and then back to serious as he walked up the steps, as Stuart Broad is now...
So does that mean Joe Root's technically still in the red? Does he still owe England a few runs? I mean, will someone mention that to him when he's just taking his pads off now? What did he drop him on? Was it 3?
Yeah, so he's minus 187. So that's now he's only minus 11 now. So he might
still
keep his place for the next test, I guess, with that.
A negative effect on the game Joe Root's had. Is that what we're saying?
Let's turn that into a tabloid headline.
The left-handed Broad just marking his guard. He's got a big jumper on at his home ground.
It just actually spotted on the replay, and I think that just shows Trent Bolt what a good bowler. He's been outstanding in this. You know, he's gone at 3 runs and over. He's got 4 for 99. the thinking of it. It was a slower ball. It was just an off spin. It was just, it's the left arm around the wicket, just held, and hence why Joe Root hit it in the air. So to be thinking like that when you are under so much pressure, almost 40, 50 runs in the first half an hour.
This could be fun. Broad, crouching, nearly LBW, just gets his bat down in time from Bolt. Like he was playing French cricket. 2 slips and a gully in position for Broad. Man out, or 2 men out in the deep on the leg side, as we so often see when he comes to the crease from opposition teams. It's a fair few in, but plenty of gaps still. I think people are still filtering in this Monday morning here at Trent Bridge. It was full house over the weekend as Bolt pushes forwards, now bounding in. Broad crouches, now works the ball to mid-wicket, no run.
He's batting in a long sleeve jumper. Is it cold?
I mean, it's a little bit chilly.
Oh, you got your coat on.
I have. Yeah, it's definitely colder than it was the last few days, I think. We did a little piece on the bridge and it's definitely a strong breeze going there as Point shuffles out to deep point. But it's an interesting point you make about Folkes is Bolt, the left armer, past the stumps to Broad, who pushes at the ball to extra cover, no run. 516 for 6. Broad's got a smile on his face now as Folkes will resume on 54.
Joe Root's final figures, 176 from 211 balls, a strike rate of 83, which equates to 5 runs and over, 1-6 and 26 fours. His 27th Test century, is 5th in his last 6 tests in England. As I mentioned yesterday, only 3 other players have had 5 centuries in a 6-test sequence in England: Graham Gooch, Dennis Compton and Don Bradman. So Joe Root's in fairly illustrious company there, I think.
Decent. England's definitely very lucky to have someone like Joe Root, as Folkes slams the ball out to deep point off the front foot. Plenty of fielders out on the boundary as he comes through for 1, moves to 55, 517 for 6, trailing by 36. Now England.
Salts, I have a question for you, which is, don't frown at me like that. There's been 16
early in the morning, Alistair.
16 wickets in the game. Not one bowled LBW. What's the most amount of wicket? We haven't had a bowled LBW, have we? What's the most amount of wickets there've been in a Test match before that's happened? So I mean, I think I'm trying to say it demonstrates that this is a really good cricket wicket to bat on. You know, there must be no sea movement to allow that to happen, because that's genuinely how bowled an LBW. I'm just about to say, and then you're going to watch Stuart Broad get LBW bowled probably, but that shows how good a batting wicket it's been. But I just wondered. I wonder what that...
I'll see what I can do. It might take me a little while to dig that out.
That's right, I'm about to leave for an hour.
We'll have it ready when you're back on.
We'll give you to the end of the day, Andy.
Just quickly, their partnership, Root and Folkes, 111 from 24.4 overs.
A fantastic partnership as it was at Lord's. Broad tucking the ball to wideish mid-on, comes through quickly for 1. He's off the mark, throw sent in, just gets in. Goes wide of the stumps. Goes to 1 Broad, 518 for 6, trailing by 35 England. But yeah, just going back to that Ben Folkes chat, that 32 not out was incredibly valuable at Lord's. Just someone to hang in there with Joe Root.
Yeah, he played the conditions beautifully, and that was not easy at all. We're talking, a little bit about this wicket being a brilliant batting wicket. That was not an easy wicket to bat on, and
as he's forwards and letting the ball go in the channel. And
it was really. The situation, he played the situation so well, tense, trying to win a game for England. And he didn't look like getting out at all, did he? I remember, I don't know, I was on air with you, and I said he just played, didn't look to score. It was just lovely batting, wasn't it? And actually, that would give him the world. Imagine walking off there in Lords and being out there with Joe Root's 10,000 runs, and just that confidence of feeling like you belong in, at Test cricket with the bat.
Back and across again, just letting it go slightly fuller from Southey, and a bit of shape away as it reared up off the pitch through to Blundell. But yeah, just with all the kind of mindset chat you were talking about for someone like Ben Folkes, not necessarily knowing what his role might be with this new era, not having the best time in the West Indies with the gloves, and everyone speaks about him as the best. The talk of Joss Buttler, Johnny Bairstow potentially, and then you come in this innings behind Ben Stokes, who's just tried to
But you also
pulverise the ball to all parts of the ground, and he's walking in thinking, oh, how should I play this? As Southey is in, point comes up into the circle, is again in the channel, Folkes lets it go.
I think very quickly that conversation about who's going to keep is kind of gone for this summer, isn't he? He's got the next 4 or 5 test matches. You know, the way he's played and kept this summer, I agree. I don't think he did keep that particularly well in the West Indies compared to the standards he sets himself. But actually since coming back here at Lords, I can't remember a mistake from him keeping it in, and that's what you want, isn't it? As a keeper takes his chances, tidies up everything.
We haven't noticed him, so that's been important behind the stumps as he comes forwards now and defends to extra cover at the end of the over. So Broad to retain the strike, 518 for 6, trailing by 35 England. So that wicket's just put a stop to England and the way they were racing along this morning. That run rate's certainly come down a lot. And usually from Broad, we do see him like to play his shots. So maybe he's just getting himself a couple of overs to get his eye in. Andy?
It's only the 7th test in England in which both teams have made 500 in the first innings. Motorcyclist excited by that stat.
Yes. Broad is on the back foot, covering it and playing it to mid-on, no run.
Well, there's only been 3 previous tests in which both sides have made 520 in first innings in England. We're 2 runs away from this becoming the 4th.
That's amazing, isn't it? Really just incredible. Well, we've had a fair few records broken here at this ground, haven't we? The highest one-day total. Second highest. Twice, yeah. 2 slips in the gully for Broad. Beats the edge as it goes through from Bolt, bowling over the wicket as we welcome in Jeremy Coney. Hello to you, Jeremy.
Hi, Isha. How are you?
Yes, not too bad, thank you.
Well,
it's just
Bolt
calmed down a touch, hasn't it?
Well, yes. Bolt's kind of held his nerve, hasn't he, amongst the carnage that's been going on for the bowlers. What is he, 4 for, is it 100 now, just? Yeah, it's a pretty good effort, actually. It was a nice dismissal. I mean, really, 2 wide or coming around the wicket to Root.
As Bolt is in, bowling over the wicket to Broad, who tucks it down to fine leg, and it goes fine enough to go for 4. So Broad's first boundary moves to 5, 522 for 6 now, England trailing by 31.
Yeah, runs keep coming, don't they? Yeah, round the wicket, one was a shorter delivery, one was full, so 2 dot balls to Root, which is quite unusual, and then a slower ball hung out a wee bit wider. It was full and it was clipped to Southey. Not a bad catch, actually, when you think Southey had gone for 33 runs. It would have been very easy for him, thinking about that.
To Broad, who pats the ball back down the pitch, no run.
So, yeah, but what an innings. Just...
Well, that was the only mistake he made, wasn't it? Apart from the shot to get to his 100, which was an inside edge past the stumps.
Well, there was perhaps the half chance over Southey, cutting. There was the pull stroke that went way in the air and Blundell couldn't get there. So there were some little bits, but not many.
Yeah.
Not many.
Bolt past the stumps, Broad forward and defending back down the pitch.
It won't be the memories that people hold. I don't think that what we'll remember is the way he started, always based on orthodoxy. You know, straight bat, driving beautifully with a good stride in and good balance to the whole stroke, just almost perfection really, through the covers. And then broadening that while the ball was still the same line, suddenly he could access mid-on and wide mid-on as well from the same ball.
As Bolt is into Broad, again beats the edge on the back foot, almost flirting at that one. As he pulls it back in, Stuart Broad at the end of the over, 522 for 6, trailing by 31. Yeah, it was incredible artistry.
Wasn't it? Just a superior innings, really. And distributing, pleasure, like largesse around the ground that he was getting for his shots as well. He just continually kind of eager and developing his game as well. Looks like we're going to see a change here. It's like picking up, we used to, as a child, you'd pick up teams between the two captains and you'd put your feet one after the other, and the last one who couldn't fit it, you get the first pick.
Yeah.
And so...
I think that's what the England selectors did in the 1980s, wasn't it?
that was something like that. There were many of them too, I've got to say, in the 80s. So sometimes five selectors.
It's what you used to do.
Someone was good making the tea.
Well, it's what you used to do when you didn't have a tape measure, so you just put your feet
You sometimes
one in front of each other.
put it sideways. That
Mark
counted
out
too.
You're on. Anyway, it's Michael Bracewell coming into the attack, the off spinner.
Tim Southey's 4 overs this morning went for 35.
Yeah.
With his last 2 yesterday, his last 6 have gone for 60.
Goodness.
Ouch. It's always tricky, isn't it? When you have the ability to swing the ball as he does. It's a bit like James Anderson, actually. One of the greatest ever, but when it's not moving around, has the ability to be targeted. Here comes Bracewell then. He's got a slip and a short leg in position as focuses back into his crease and working it out to deep square for 1. Moves to 56, 523 for 6, trailing by 30 now, England.
Well, this is the reason Bracewell's come on now with the left-hander. Just another challenge for him as a young bowler. Not much turn, really. I don't think of significance. You'd think Broad will have a crack at some point. They're discussing the field now, the captain and bowler.
He's got 2 men back straight, but they're probably about 25 metres off the rope, both of them.
Encouraging the shot over the top, if you like. Very much an Indian tactic to go that 3/4, give you the single, not 2, and the chance to hit over me for the boundary. If you mistime it, of course, you run the risk of being caught.
Covers up as an extra and a point, and a slip in position, and deep mid-wicket and a deep backward square as Bracewell round the wicket as the sweep comes out. In fact, it's a ramp from Broad down to the fine leg boundary. He's played it beautifully. His second boundary moves to 9, 527 for 6. Trail by 26.
The defensive sweep, really, not trying to actually hit the ball, but just to guide it down fine. From just perhaps, it's hard to tell from that angle whether it was just on the stumps or just outside off. Maybe just outside off. So just helping its way, and gosh, the outfield is fast.
He played the shot and then looked at Bracewell as he plays us now to mid-wicket off the front foot, as if to say, I've got hold of this one. Thank you. Bracewell in again through his action to Broad, driving, and an excellent take by Slip. Diving to his right, Daryl Mitchell, like Superman in the air, taking it right-handed, and Broad goes for 9, 527 for 7, England.
Yeah, Broad goes, so another wicket for New Zealand, and the first one for Bracewell this morning, nicely flighted and up, and it's perhaps just turned a bit, and a very good catch, really, wasn't it? Well, it's nice to see New Zealand hold a catch, actually.
Anyone hold a catch, Jeremy.
That's true. So Stuart Broad goes, diving away to his right. He's quite wide there, wasn't he, at first slip? And it went between Blundell and the first slip position, and he dived away and held it. It was above his shoulder, I would say. One hand to his right. He is a right-handed bowler and a fielder as well. So that's worked for Bracewell. And what's the 26?
Yeah, 26 behind England as Matt Potts emerges from the dressing room and just does a few stretches. Strongly built chap as he walks out onto the field, the Durham lad, who was out for a duck in England's first innings at Lord's and didn't get to bat in the second one, so maybe a few nerves walking out at the moment as he joins Ben Foakes. But yeah, trailing by 26, so that's put a a halt to proceedings for England, really, because at one stage they were looking like going past that score and building a fine lead with Joe Root and Ben Foakes out there. Foakes obviously still holds the key to getting past parity, as he's now just having a chat to Potts. Yeah, quite a full delivery from Bracewell, inviting the drive. Stuart Broad almost having to dig it out.
Yeah, it was full. And did it just grip a little bit as well? Whether Broad tried to hit it a wee bit square or not, I don't know. Whether the bat face opened a bit.
Yeah, a lot of bottom hand in that as Bracewell comes over the wicket to Potts, who's working the ball to mid-wicket, no run. It's a catching mid-wicket in there, Tim Southey, short leg and a slip surrounding him. As Bracewell comes through to Potts on the back foot, dabbing at it, goes past slip, he starts moving forwards to try and take the single that is sent back by Foakes, eager to get off the mark. As England 527 for 7 at the end of the over, trailing by 26, Foakes 56.
So Michael Bracewell, 2 for 50 now, 53. A little bit flat early on and was just taken to the boundary by Broad early on, and then just got the ball a bit above the batsman's eyes a wee bit more. Always hard once the ball goes above your eyes, and if there is any curve or coming down with the ball, it's quite hard to sometimes to get the length exactly as a batsman. So Broad looking to play an expansive drive, and that was fair enough, but he got an edge and was well taken by Mitchell at first slip.
Good morning, Jeremy.
Oh, Simon.
Good morning, everyone. This probably won't mean anything to you, Jeremy, but I'm surprised Broad walked
What
for that.
are you telling me then?
Well, here is Bolt bowling, and it's turned away into the onside by Foakes towards mid-wicket, and there's no run, because all our listeners will note the reference.
Right.
I'm surprised Broad walked for that, because he nicked it to slip.
Ah, yes, I know what you're talking about. Was that against Australia?
That was
perhaps?
against Australia on this ground.
Yes.
Yeah, but it actually came off the keeper's gloves and went to slip. So the Australians got very exercised about it. Extremely, because of course they all walk, don't they?
They do.
Yeah, they do. Yeah. 527 for 7. England 26 runs behind. Bolt bowls, and forward goes Foakes, playing it back to Bolt, who picks up, and there is no run. It was a really, it was a strange one. Optical illusion, probably. It looked as though he nicked it to slip, but actually got an edge on it. Keeper's gloves to slip. And I'm just trying to remember, Australia used all their reviews, and Aleem Dar gave it not out, but they'd already used their reviews, so they couldn't review it. I mean, it's clearly out on the replay, thick edge to the keeper. But there we go. Them's the breaks. 527 for 7. Foakes on 56. And here goes Bolt to bowl. Tim Foakes drives and misses, looking for that extra cover region. Sprawling take by Blundell away to his right-hand side. Well, Mitchell's improving his catching. He's picked up a couple since he dropped a couple. That was a good one. Away to his right. You can see it on the BBC Sport website fairly soon. England losing a couple of wickets today. You can watch both those. Root out for 176 and Broad for 9. I've never seen a batter so furious after making 170 odd than Root this morning. Hitting that slower ball from Bolt to Southey at extra cover. Bolt bowls, and this time Foakes doesn't play, and it's through to Blundell. So England 26 runs behind, just being checked a bit by those 2 wickets, because obviously Root can punish the opposition. Also, Broad can take a game away if you get half an hour, 40 minutes of Broad in the mood, just hacking and slogging and scything.
Yes, well, that's why he's obviously elevated from his normal position. That's the way, I think, in a pitch like this as well. You want to move the game along, don't abuse time, because it's getting to that phase of the match. How can this game move on?
Yeah. Bolt to Foakes. Foakes clips this straight to square leg. And there's no run. Picked up by Bracewell.
Good. I'm sure there's something wrong with Blundell. He's standing too deep. And I don't know quite why, because that if he has got a sore hand, that means he's taking it low. And, you know, it's hitting the hand hard. You can see, in fact, the first slip is very well in front of him. And he's having to dive for a ball that really was just let go, just two deliveries to folks ago. So he's not moving very well either. You shouldn't have to dive for that. It was just a shimmy across to his right.
Bolt to Folkes. Folkes tries to drive a wide delivery, miscues it completely back to the bowler, and there's no run. I mean, Mitchell sort of 1.5 slips, isn't he? He's a bit wide there, but normally, yeah, your first slip is behind the keeper, but actually he's in front of him.
But it's good to see him going up, I think, because he's just been standing too deep so far in the game. You've got to be there for a chance, and Blundell, certainly while he is further back, he's taking the ball, down by the ankles, coming through when the ball is just a normal delivery and let go.
5:27 for 7 at the end of the 124th over. England 26 runs behind. Folkes 56 not out. Matthew Potts is still waiting for his first run in Test match cricket. Here's Bracewell to bowl to him, and he's back defending, dropping the ball onto the pitch, and there's no run. No problems here with Blundell where he stands, because he's standing up, of course, to Bracewell, the off spinner, bowling from the Ratcliffe Road end, right arm over the wicket with a slip and a short leg in. Mid-on's quite deep. Henry's loosening up. He is that mid-on fielder, so presumably he's going to bowl the next over from the far end. Bracewell to Potts, tossed up, and Potts comes forward and turns that carefully towards Southey, fielding it straight mid-wicket, and there is no run. It's overcast in Nottingham, much stiller day today. It's quite cool, around about 16 degrees. Bracewell to Potts. Potts is back, clipping it away towards mid-wicket. Oh, could be a run out at the non-striker's end. There will be. Folkes came down to try to get Potts off the mark. It went straight to mid-wicket. The throw came into the non-strikers, and Folkes could not get back. Bracewell whipping the bails off, and England have lost their 8th wicket. And it's Folkes run out for 56. 3 quick wickets for New Zealand. England 5:27 for 8.
Well, that's a bit of a shame for Folkes. He's been playing extremely well. He knew it was always going to be a tight run. Potts made an initial movement that he wanted the run and then stopped. And Folkes had committed himself, almost overcommitted, and had no way of getting back. Was to the right side of the fielder. I didn't quite pick up
Nichols.
exactly. I think Nichols, yes. So he's a right, even though a left-handed bat, he's a right-arm thrower. So to his strong side, in other words. And then the hard throw into the ground, and of course Bracewell right beside the stumps to complete the run out, and Folkes nowhere to be seen really, so disappointing for him. He's had 2 good innings against New Zealand in this series, has kept tidily, and is kind of cementing his place in this side at number 7 with the bat as well.
A lot of that had to do with Potts yet to score a run in Test cricket, didn't
just
it?
those couple of steps
Yeah.
forward.
Yeah, he wanted to get off the mark. Right, Jack Leach is on his way.
Ben Folkes finished with 56 from 104 balls with 10 fours. His first 50 in this country, his third 50-plus score overall in Test. Yesterday, 24 from 70 balls. Today, 32 from 34.
Yeah, there wasn't a run there, really. Clipped it firmly to Nichols, who was quite deep. Sort of unorthodox position at mid-wicket.
Yeah, but he clipped it reasonably
He
well,
hit it
didn't
hard,
he? And
yeah.
that's perhaps a run for the shot when you haven't scored.
Yeah, when you're 12 and you play a shot like that, you just run, don't you? Hit it to mid-off or mid-wicket, because you've timed it nicely. Yeah, he set off, and Folkes was halfway down.
Well, he knew it was tight,
Yeah.
so he thought the run was on,
Yeah.
and so he really went hard.
Right, Potts still on naught, and there he is. He's off the mark, hitting it up towards deep mid-on. Henry Fields, his first run in Test cricket for Matthew Potts. Actually 1 wicket, then he got the last wicket. Taken a long time to get the wicket. When he was bowling, took him 30.3 overs, 1 for 126 after his 7 wickets at Lords. He was bounced out, remember, at Lords. I wonder whether New Zealand have got the energy to go for that mode of dismissal here in the field for 125 overs. Now the left-handed Leach, and Bracewell presumably will enjoy bowling at him. Round the wicket with his off break, straightening it. And they've gone for 2 gullies, or 2 slips, if you like. Slip and a gully. Short extra cover. Square leg. Here's Bracewell bowling to Leach, who comes down the pitch and pushes that away into the offside. For a moment, he was going to come and belt him over the top. Mid-on and mid-off are up. I have seen Leach do that but not to his first ball, but he was actually blocking it in the end.
I hope Blundell's ready and awake.
Blundell goes into Leach, and Leach props forward and defends that. Just a hint of turn there from Bracewell. Leach able to cover it. Interesting day for Leach actually today, because there is something to work with on this fourth day service. Not massive, but there's a bit of turn there. Can he, I don't know, chip away at New Zealand? Probably a couple of wickets for the new ball will make a difference perhaps to Leach today, and just build some pressure. Anyway, we'll see, that's for later. 528 for 8 is the score. Potts on 1, Leach yet to score. England are 25 runs behind. It looks as though it's going to be a pretty even situation in terms of first innings scores. He was suggesting England should declare behind. We were talking about this off air. I was saying, well, what about declaring 1 behind? Well, that's a bit too cynical.
I do, yeah, I do. The only point I was trying to make about declaring behind it, it adds to the impetus from the declaration to say to the other team, the gauntlet is down, you should consider this, and you're going to look a bit negative if you aren't going to respond. So it just adds to that kind of...
Here's Potts facing Bolt, and Potts angles that away. He finds the gap there, should get 2. Out towards deep backward point. He's coming back for the second. England up to 530 for 8, 23 runs behind. Potts moves to 3, nicely angled away.
So, I just feel that it's consistent with all the words that have come out recently to keep the game very entertaining. I've just mentioned about, I think, the team batting fourth in these conditions. We haven't seen a lot of turn. Now, you can't say this is a turning pitch.
No. Here is Bolt to Potts. He's bowled him. Yorker. Big drive. And Bolt gets 5. Well, he's really stuck at it, Trent Bolt. Clearly the pick of New Zealand's bowlers. And he has been rewarded. 5 for 105. And England 530 for 9. It's happened very quickly. And New Zealand are now heading for a first innings. There's a really good delivery, that swinging full ball. They might have actually got a better player out than Matthew Potts.
He's bowled very well, hasn't he? And as I say, within the number of runs that have been flowing from the English bats, to get 5 wickets is an excellent result for Trent Bolt. He's been clearly the pick of the New Zealand bowlers.
He's taken 5 for 105 so far. It's his 10th 5-wicket haul in Test cricket, and his 5th of those against England. In all against England now 63 wickets, average 23.
Jimmy Anderson with us shortly. I can see him at the far end making his way down the steps. How you'll bowl in these conditions. I mean, it did swing, that delivery from Trent Bolt.
Well, it is, as you say, you said it's quite still today, certainly not as blustery as the other 3 days of cricket that we've had, and that means that the ball at least is not going to be disturbed by that, and I think that will actually help the swing bowlers a bit. They've had 2 nights rest, plenty of time for them, so they should feel a little bit better about it. The New Zealand openers have been out in the field for a long time, so can they actually hang on to a catch? That's the first bowled, I think, in the match, and there's no LBWs so far, has there been?
No, but the run-out was the first wicket that wasn't a catch. 16 catches, a run-out.
That's extraordinary, with the ball moving around and the number of seam bowlers in this match. That was right through Potts, wasn't it? Just, as you say, that later movement from Bolt. A full ball. Almost yorked himself, didn't he, really? Looking to play it into the leg side. Missed it.
Yeah, talk about the declaration, England's tactics this morning. I think clearly their plan was to get a lead of 100, something like that.
If they could.
Yeah, if they could.
I think that's right.
Root and Folkes together, and you think, well, could they continue? And Root really frustrated to get out in the way he did.
Well, he was the key to the morning, wasn't he? Or the rest of the day, because he could have carried on and looked after the tail.
Here's Anderson's first ball. Bolt goes into Bolton. Anderson plays an unconvincing push shot to a ball outside the off stump. A little fiddle there. And it went past the edge.
Blundell looks very unhappy to me. I mean, there are so many other keepers around in the New Zealand setup.
You don't want to give it away, though, as a keeper.
No, you don't.
They,
I
they
appreciate.
hate going off.
They
don't
do. They are sort of a tough group usually.
Yeah.
Leg slip as well has come in.
Yeah, 2 slips a gully, leg slip, 2 saving, 1 on the offside, 2 on the on. Bolt into bowl to Anderson, and Anderson gets a full ball which he pokes at and misses. Another good delivery from Bolt, actually, swinging away from the left-hander.
This is one of those occasions, I think, I was talking about the depth from slips from the batsman. And this is where you would move up, I think, because Anderson's going to be a defensive player. It's going to be a defensive shot. You've got to be up there. You do not want it to bounce and that's that depth, I think, of the first slip. It's got to be watched.
Back with Bolt, past the umpire now, into bowl to Anderson, and Anderson's off the mark. Full delivery, which returns down to Henry at fine leg. Anderson and Bolt, look at conversation. There's a smile on Bolt's face, as there often is. I think there's a smile on Jimmy Anderson's face as well. 5:31 for 9, England 22 runs behind. He's like a power ball, Trent Bolt. You know those old rubber balls? He just sort of keeps coming back at you. He seems to have tremendous amounts of energy in the field yesterday. He kept running in. And he's had a whole IPL season, and straight into the Lord's Test, straight into this one. He's come up with a fifer. 5 for 106. 5:31 for 9. Another left-hander. Jack Leach faces Bolt, and Leach is beaten by a beauty from Trent Bolt, sliding it past the outside edge, which, Anderson at the non-striker's end would be looking at that and thinking, well, I wonder whether I can get that going as well. And it's our turn to bowl, which might not be too far away now. 1 wicket to go. And we're just before the end of the first hour. Presumably the drinks will, well, they might be all out in this over, and then that'll be a nice, neat.
And all in the hour? You're happy with that,
yeah,
aren't you?
Yeah.
You like things to be neat.
Alison's
you are a
coming
neat
in.
person.
Well, it's the end of the first hour, so it's time for Alison.
And a very neat
and
person.
Michael as well.
People behind me too. Very good. Michael's going to come in. That's excellent. Did the podcast with him last night in a very tiny room, a bricked up room, really, wasn't it? And the scale. It's a model of Nottingham.
I thought you were suggesting he'd bricked you in, Jeremy.
No, well, they almost did.
Here is Bracewell. Spin now to Anderson with a slip and a short leg, and he goes back, looks to cut and misses. And it's into the gloves of the keeper.
The best thing was, though, it had Scalextric's cars right throughout, about 3 or 4, you know. So that was excellent. No, we didn't in the end. Anyway, I'm off.
Michael is coming in.
He'll
tell
talk
us
some
more.
sense now.
Anderson facing up again. Brace once more forward and defending. Smothers that ball. Picked up by a short leg and no run. Overcast here at Nottingham. New Zealand looking for this last wicket to wrap up the England innings. England are 22 behind. Bracewell in a little quicker. Sweeping for 4. Anderson making a good connection. And the crowd enjoying that. They gave him a really warm reception when he walked out. Morning, Michael.
Yeah, I think it might
Afternoon,
be just afternoon. I don't think New Zealand have done their homework on Jimmy Anderson, because he pretty much just sweeps. And that's his shot, and they've got no fielder back there. The reverse sweep won't be too far away.
There is a backward point in place. If he does. If he goes aerial, that was quite aerial off the bat, but safe. There's a short fine leg there as Bracewell is in again. There is the reverse, and he top edges it over the top of slip, and it'll be 4 more. Jimmy Anderson enjoying himself.
But Jimmy's been playing quite a while, and you would think that a team like New Zealand, that are a good test match team, may just realise that this is Jimmy's shot. The sweep and the reverse sweep, that's pretty much all he's got against the spin. You would think they might just pack that region.
Well, they've got mid-off, mid-on for the drive.
It's got kind of a hovering mid-on. They're obviously
Yeah.
worried about Jimmy dancing down,
Going down
launching
the
one
top.
down the ground.
Field doesn't change. Bracewell is in again. A little flight, little fuller this time. Just beat Anderson, who came forward defensively. He's got a grin on his face. The debutant, 2 for 62 for him on his Test debut. Anderson settling over his bat once again. Blundell behind the stumps, bobs down. Bracewell goes in. Quicker, Field flatter. Flash of the blade, only as far as short extra cover though. Salvi Fields with 2 hands, and it's the end of the over. With England 5:39 for 9, 14 behind. And we'll continue our commentary on 5 Sports Extra via the BBC Sport website and BBC Sounds app. But our Radio 4 long-wave listeners are leaving us briefly for the shipping forecast. Well, it's going to be drinks being brought out onto the field here. So, Michael, how do you see this panning out then? Last wicket stand here, England, they're going to be fractionally behind or fractionally ahead at this stage. Time remaining. Position of the series is interesting, isn't it? Because if England win the match, they win the series, which then makes you look at it and say, well, New Zealand can't afford to lose. But if they don't win, they can't win the series themselves either. So it's an interesting where the carrot is going to fall.
I'm intrigued to see how New Zealand play it, because you go back a year ago at Lord's where they did set England a target, and England decided not to go for that target. England were in a position where they didn't have their full strength team, and their confidence levels were just nowhere near to chase down that target. And Joe Root wasn't playing as well as he would have liked to have been. I think New Zealand might try something. I mean, England will have a feeling that they could bowl New Zealand now. There'll be potentially a bit of swing. There's a bit of spin there for
different feel to the conditions.
Yeah,
isn't
I feel there's a bit of clouds around. It might swing a little bit, and we know that pressure. I'll be intrigued to see if New Zealand bat well, what they would think. I think of all the teams around the world, I think New Zealand may offer something to England tomorrow.
Well, they've got a sort of adventurous style about them, haven't they? Up against the adventurous style of Stokes and McCullum.
I tweeted before the start, I think we're in for an exciting 2 days. We've already seen some incredible strokes this morning. That reverse paddle switch, whatever you want to call it, off Joe Root's second ball of the morning for 6 over third was just remarkable. One of the great shots I've seen in Test cricket. England will certainly go for anything. Well, first and foremost, from this position, when they get the ball in hand, they'll try and bowl New Zealand out for 150.
Yeah.
That's what the pitch doesn't suggest that could be possible. You just never know. If you get on a roll, Broad gets one of those spells that we've seen in the past. A bit of swing for Jimmy Anderson, a bit of spin for Jack Leach. It could be possible. Pressure plays a funny part of Test match cricket, but if New Zealand bat well, and you would think 1 or 2 of the New Zealand players would fancy still getting a few runs on this kind of surface, and the scoring rate, as we've seen throughout the whole Test match, I think will continue to be quite high. If they bat the day out and they're 260 ahead by the close of play, it'll be very interesting to see what happens tomorrow.
Who do you think has the mental advantage? Because New Zealand, buoyed by their 550 in the first innings, might have had their spirits somewhat dampened by England drawing parity with them. The opening batters and the top order, when they bat second time around, it's day 4 of the match. Bodies, minds a little bit more tired than they were when they were completely fresh, put into bat on day 1. Well, these things come into it a little bit. The pitch is still good, of course.
Yeah, I mean, New Zealand are an experienced side. They've got plenty of players that have played lots of cricket, so they'll know they're in a contest. They'll be disappointed that they haven't got more of a lead. They'll be disappointed with the way that they're caught in this game. They're usually such a dependable catching team. I just look at Jameson injured. That's going to be a play for New Zealand. I don't get a sense from watching New Zealand over the last few years that they will play it completely safe. I think they'll try and just bat and see where it takes them, and they'll play as they did in the first innings, on a pitch like this where you're going to look to score, because there's only a small margin for the bowler on a pitch, and it's still playing beautifully. I've seen 1 or 2 balls spin, but it's not drastic. The odd ball swings, but there's no huge movement of the seam. So they should be able to bat the day out and get to a lead of over 200, and then we'll have to wait and see. It'll be all a debate, I guess, later on in the day of what New Zealand possibly may do on the last day.
Who knows where this partnership could go between Anderson and Leach. The last wicket stand for England. England 14 behind. Leach facing up now to Bolt, rushing in. Turns it to mid-wicket along the ground. 3 slips in the gully, waiting to pouch any edge.
You're asking a lot of a debutant in Michael Bracewell to get a 5 or 6 from the last day. But, I'll have to wait and see if it gets to that. Bolt's been magnificent. He's the real standout for New Zealand. Tim Southey's been very disappointing.
Just having a look at a graphic on the screen of Trent Boult's runs at number 11 because he reached a bit of a landmark, didn't he, with the bat in the first innings. That one's just kicked up a bit into the ground, angled into the ground, fending a little as Leach before being fielded at gully. But Boult finding the edge of the bat. Most runs at number 11 in tests.
He's only 5 away, isn't he, Jimmy Anderson?
Yeah, so Trent Boult levelled Muralitharan at 620. Levelled? I'm not sure that's the correct meaning of the word level.
Yeah,
he equalled Muralitharan with 623 in the first innings. Jimmy Anderson responding strongly. Now just 5 runs behind, 6 needed to take the all-time lead. This is a number 11 rivalry that could define this series.
This is a contest. He's at the non-striker's end at the moment, though, as Boult is in. Leach looking to drive a full ball. Doesn't time it, only as far as mid-on.
Yeah, I think if New Zealand had a fully fit attack and also a Tim Southee bowling a bit better than he is, I think they'd be a bit more gung-ho. I think they'd be a bit more aggressive. But you have to put that into the equation as a captain when you're looking at things. You know, you've got a debutant spinner. Got Trent Boult who's bowling great, and Southee struggled, and Matt Henry struggled, and you've got no Kyle Jamieson, so you have to put all...
Is his hand for batting?
Well, we'll have to wait and see, but he's still out there keeping. So you'd think, I saw him having a net this morning. He was hitting the ball okay.
Leach 6 balls yet to score. Boult racing in, slid into the ground, into the hands of gully once more by Leach.
So let's break down. They've got Daryl Mitchell, but he's not bowled that much. He could bowl a bit, but he's more of a one-day bowler, which it might get into that kind of contest, so he might come into the game somewhat on the last day. But realistically, put him to one side. You've got no Kyle Jamieson, so you're down to 4. Tim Southee's not bowling great. You've got Henry not bowling great. And then you've got Boult and a debutant spinner. So I don't think they'll dangle the carrot too much.
This is the beauty of it. Wondering how it will unfold. Boult in, past the edge, only just though of Leach's bat, and came forward prodding a little. The floodlights have started to come on here, so that tells you just the level of slight gloom we've got over the ground. We've had really clear blue skies with fluffy clouds these first few days. It'll be a strong wind to accompany it. It's less windy today. It's not blustery like it has been. It's much more gloomy.
We just downstairs on the television analysed 3 deliveries from Tim Southee in the kind of space of a few inches.
Boult's in up past the umpire, into Leach, gets a Yorker, and he's dug it out. Well played, Leach. Oohs and ahs. Now, actually questioning the New Zealanders whether he did get bat down on that, and wondering whether to ask for a review.
Bet they review it, just in case it flicks his toe before.
They've still got one
left. They've gone for it, yeah.
It's their last one, isn't it, I think? So Latham has asked for this to be looked at. It was speared
TV
in
umpire to
by
director.
Boult.
We have a player review for LBW. The original decision is not out. I've checked the front foot. It's a fair delivery. Can we go to front on, please?
Voice of Rod Tucker, the TV umpire.
Thank you. Just rock and roll that for me. That looks very obvious. There's an inside edge on it. Yep. So I'm happy to go back to Paul straight away. That there's no pad involved. It's straight on the bat. So, Paul, stay with your original decision, not out. You're on screen now, signal.
Big inside edge. Is that the best nutmeg you've seen, though, Michael? His feet were only about an inch apart, and Leach managed to inside edge it between his boots.
Yeah, it was a nice meg. Good delivery from Boult.
It was.
Yeah, so we've analysed 3 deliveries from Tim Southee, and it's kind of an area of a handkerchief size. And inside those 3 balls that Joe Root faced off Tim Southee, he's played the reverse sweep, switch it for 6, a cover drive that went through point, and then the last night shot where he worked it through the onside down the ground for past mid-on.
Extraordinary.
That's greatness. When you can play...
Bracewell in. Anderson looking to sweep again. Doesn't get hold of it this time. And ugly. Gets himself off balance as well. No run.
When you can hit the same ball in a radius of around, I'm thinking 180 degrees, that is hard to bowl to.
Yeah, how are you getting it through? It's
just got so many options.
A joy watching Root bat yesterday. Now, what is the field going to do here? With Anderson on strike looking to sweep, backwards square, deep backwards square is being brought up. The leg slip, he's tossed away the helmet and retreating to short fine leg.
Yeah, it's a good position for the top edge sweep.
Conventional slip is in place, catches it short extra mid-wicket, and Anderson looking to advance. Has he been stumped? I think he has. He's turning and he's walking. Well, he took a different approach, looking to go downtown. It's a 3rd wicket for Michael Bracewell on his Test debut. And England are all out for 539. 14 runs is the deficit. And that's all happened, Michael. There's 5 wickets in just under an hour and a quarter on this 4th morning.
Yeah, that's a really good innings by England. When you're going out to bat and the opposition have already got 550, it's never easy, even when the pitch is good. You know, they've played with great clarity. This modern era, this new era, this reset. Ben Stokes and Brendan McCullum, it's been very clear to me inside 6 or 7 days of Test cricket this summer that we're going to see an England side that's going to play shots, they're going to be aggressive. You know, they're going to try and really put the bowlers under pressure by scoring runs, looking to be proactive. And at times it'll be risky, and at times I'm sure they'll get bowled out doing so. But it's very clear a message that's been sent to all these England players that when you go out there, you've got to try and impact the game by scoring runs. Brilliant from Trent Boult. He's been the pick for New Zealand. Now New Zealand have got that tricky 3rd innings of a Test match. It's been a precarious one for many teams over the years, where if you get caught in between what you should do and what you shouldn't do, or don't have a real clear clarity of what you're trying to achieve, you can come unstuck and get bowled out quite cheaply. And the clouds are rolling in, the lights are on. Anderson and Broad and co. Could be a little bit more movement.
Could be very interesting. They're going to have just over about 35 minutes until lunch for England to have a bowl. And I tell you what, the sign writer's going to be busy again with Trent Boult for his fifer. I think that the batting honours board is now going to be completely full, because 2 more have had to be added, haven't they, for Pope and Root. And full up.
They need a new board.
They need a new batting honours board.
So the bowling honours board.
The bowling honours board, plenty of room. The last fifer here was Jasprit Bumrah last year. Ollie Robinson got 5 as well.
So there's space for a Jack Leach fifer.
Absolutely. An email here from Teresa Littler to give you. I'll give you the full scorecard in a moment as well. We've enjoyed listening to your fabulous commentary for the last 26 years. Could you please wish my amazing husband a very happy 24th wedding anniversary today and a happy 60th birthday for tomorrow? We're celebrating with 2 days at the cricket in the William Clark stand. Amazing to see Joe get his brilliant 100 yesterday. Well, that's a double wishes, isn't it? Happy anniversary and birthday.
Yeah, congratulations.
Thank you for that. Keep listening. Well, let me fill you in what's happened today, because England resumed overnight on 473 for 5, so they were 80 behind, and Joe Root was unbeaten on 163. Thoughts of whether he could get to another double 100, which would have been an incredible landmark yet again for him, and Folkes was with him on 24. The second ball that Root faced of the day, he reversed scooped Tim Southee for 6. Added only 13 in total to his overnight score. He was out for 176. That was the first wicket of the day to fall. Then Ben Folkes. So Broad was the next. He came out. He was well caught by Daryl Mitchell. A leaping catch at slip, one-handed off Bracewell for 9. Ben Folkes was rather unfortunately run out by Potts, who was facing and looked to work to mid-wicket, and Folkes thought there was a single there. Potts sent him back, but Folkes out for 56. And then all happened rather quickly, with Potts being bowled by Boult for 3, and Leach and Anderson, the last pair, Anderson being stumped by Bracewell for 9, and Jack Leach unbeaten on 0. The bowling figures, there's probably some stats around these which New Zealand wouldn't want to read. Tim Southee, 32 overs, 1 maiden, 0 for 154. Trent Boult, with his fifer, 33.3 overs, 8 maidens, 5 for 106. Matt Henry, 27 overs, 5 maidens, 1 for 128. Kyle Jamieson, who went off injured, pain in his lower back was being assessed by the physios yesterday. 16.3 overs, 3 maidens, 0 for 66. Michael Bracewell on debut, 17.2 overs, 2 maidens, 3 for 62. And then 2 overs from Daryl Mitchell, his medium pace, none for 8. So that in New Zealand, having a 14-run lead to take into their second innings, with England all out for 539.
I've just had a message from a good friend, Laurie Colliver, who I work with in Australia. He's just sent a message saying great vagaries of 2 interesting tests. Lord's Test was over at 12:07 on day 4. 35 wickets had fallen for 837 runs at 24 apiece. Pretty much at the same time on day 4 at Trent Bridge, 1,092 runs have been scored, 20 wickets have fallen at 54.6 runs apiece.
Well, that's the beauty of it, isn't
The
it?
difference of test matches in the UK, well, I guess across the globe, you get weeks, and that's why we've been saying all week, as you know, you look at it from a batting point of view, and these are the weeks that you go, just get lots in the locker, get as many
Make
as
the
you
most
can,
of it
because
while you can.
Headley in a week or so's time, Edgbaston we've seen over the years has been at times good for batting, at good time for bowling as well. Headley with the cloud coming, we know it's going to be swinging and seaming all over the place, so these are the weeks as a batter that you go, right, get plenty in the account.
Yeah, and
Store some away.
Joe Root now 10,191 test runs after he passed that magical landmark at Lord's. That was a lovely slower ball, wasn't it, that he got from Trent Boult, drove it straight to Southey at cover. So it was strange seeing Root walk off being thoroughly annoyed at himself that he'd got out in that moment. I suppose he looked at it again and thought, well,
Yeah.
you know, there were runs there to be had, and he
But-
started off so positively.
But Ali, I hope England have looked at that and realised this pitch has got drier. We've seen a bit of spin from Michael Bracewell. And of course, for the first few initial overs, you have your 3 slips and a gully and you try and get the outside edge. But as you get into the innings, I think having a couple of catches in front of the wicket for the seamers and bowling slower balls, as well as obviously you're trying to bowl the on-pace deliveries, but it looks the kind of wicket now that the variations could be quite invaluable, and bowling cutters, bowling wobble seam, then bowling a quick bouncer, slower ball bounce. Just try and vary it up, because as we've seen from someone like Tim Southey, who's a good bowler, he's just bowled the same Tim Southey ball pretty much all the time, same pace, 80 odd miles an hour.
It didn't seem to suit him when he was asked to bowl, round the wicket short balls this morning.
It was cannon fodder. It really was. It was, I'm sure, as a batter, quite a joy to face at times. But I didn't see enough variations from Tim Southey in terms of cutters, slower balls. So it was actually nice to see Trent Boult he did Joe Root. And when you do Joe Root, you've done something quite special, because that was a beautiful bit of bowling, because the 2 balls previous were on pace, quite quick, round the wicket, angled in, and then he just drew him a little bit wider with that lovely cutter. Glorious bowling.
It's going to take skillful bowling, but England have that in likes of James Anderson. It's going to be really interesting to see how he goes on here. And Stuart Broad didn't figures in the first innings. He took 2 late lower order wickets. Broad, so he didn't quite make the impact that you felt he might. Home ground, the crowd, everything else about it. But James Anderson, important to note that he is 1 wicket away from the 650 mark as well in his bid to rise up the
I think he might get
Test
it
wickets
today.
mark.
I think it's a fair shout.
It feels like he will.
Yep.
And then the 700 mark at some stage.
But you
in
look
his
at this.
career as well. He's still going.
You look at the conditions now. England have earned the right to get this, if you like, a little bit of fortune with the clouds rolling in, the lights are on, because they've batted so well and for so long, and they've got so close to New Zealand. They've got a great chance. Now I think there's a few clouds around tomorrow as well, so it might help New Zealand when they come to bowl. But it feels like a day that it could just do that little bit more than we've seen so far.
The heavy roller has been trundling up and down the pitch. England are already on the edge of the boundary, as are the 2 openers for New Zealand. The floodlights on, the cloud hovering over the ground like a duvet. How much swing will we see with this brand new ball? Umpires are coming out, so Michael, I'm going to hand over to Aggers, and he'll see us through this next 20 minutes, the first 20 minutes of New Zealand's second innings with this 14-run lead.
Yeah, just seen Michael Bracewell's spell of bowling. There's a little bit there for the spinner, which will encourage Jack Leach in particular. Maybe Joe Root might get an over or 2 later on in the day, but the England huddle will be one that I'm sure the captain will be giving the message, let's be nice and aggressive. He'll set aggressive fields. We've seen that already in his captaincy at Lord's and in the first innings here. Can England get New Zealand panicking? Can they get a couple of early ones?
Well, the conditions are really nice for bowling, aren't they? I mean, the pitch aside, which as we know is pretty flat, but overhead, and we've seen Trent Boult swing the ball today. So a real opportunity with the floodlights on, but gloomy, 40 minutes to go till lunch, all those things you factor in. And England have a chance here.
Yeah, they have. I mean, you just get a sense with this England kind of mentality over the last couple of weeks that and particularly Ben, I don't think he cares about losing. I think he's right. I'm going for the win. I think he always thinks with Brendan McCullum, how are we going to win the game? So all he'll be thinking now is, right, where's the ball going to go in the air? I'm going to put a fielder there. And he'll be saying to his bowlers, come on, offer the drive, get it forward. Get it up there. Just if you get it through the covers or down the ground, it's not a problem. We're just here to try and create a few chances. Just before lunch, we've got, 37 minutes before lunch. And let's have New Zealand 2 down at lunch. I think that'll be the message by Ben Stokes.
Yeah, and that's a realistic one. They've lined up the slips. They could put some real pressure here on Latham. Anderson will bowl from our end. That's the end you'd expect him to bowl, probably, with a very gentle breeze as it is. Ben Stokes will be at mid-off, so quite a key position to encourage Anderson to pitch the ball up, because Bolt did pitch it up and he got that swing from a very full length. Broad with his lucky bandana ons at mid-on. 3 slips of gullies, a backward point. And then Broad will be at mid-on. There's a man just in front of square.
The third innings, when you're pretty much near to parity, what you do.
Absolutely.
What you're doing as a batting unit. How's your mindset? What are you thinking?
Well, they lead by 14, that's all. And here's the first ball. Anderson on his way, he runs in, bowls Latham forward. Young sets off from the non-strikers. They're not quite as far as Ben Folkes did earlier on, but I felt sorry for Folkes. He was trying to get Potts off the mark there. He responded to Potts' call. And he was doing the right thing as a teammate, but I'm afraid he got run out. He's playing nicely as well.
300 chase on the last day would be exciting, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would. Not impossible either.
No,
I think a good spinner would be interesting on here.
Yeah.
Anderson round the wicket, bowls, and Latham's forward again. There's no run for him there. This field is square in the offside.
There's no sign of it cracking up. Yeah, this pitch. There's no balls that have rolled on the floor, or the odd ball's bounced a little bit, but it's been with no real venom. I haven't seen one fly yet. Can England catch better?
Well, there's 73 overs left in the day, so still a lot of cricket.
They won't get that amount, will they?
Well, probably not. They tend not to.
68.
But there should be. Anderson runs in, bowls, and Latham is forward again. Young sets off half a dozen paces from the non-striker's end and then quickly runs back again. So far, it's been every ball in the same place and the same shot and the same fielder. No runs on the board, but there is low cloud. Floodlights are on. Doesn't feel like June.
You can just hear the cordon saying, "Come on, third innings."
Yeah.
Just getting into the psyche of the opening pair of New Zealand.
Anderson round the wicket, bowls Fuller, and he's driven him for 4. Good shot that, well timed, and Broad made an early bid to try and stop it, but then realised that he couldn't possibly. And instead runs down to our end and picks the ball up, has a look at it.
Oh, we've seen some shots today. What a way to get off the mark. That's perfection.
Yeah.
Yes, it's full, and yes, it's a harsh volley, but
just a push again.
Oh, that's all he is. And he just kind of leans on that, races to the boundary. That'll get Brodie loose.
4 for no wicket, so New Zealand's lead is 18. Slips lined up, got Bairstow at third, Crawley second, Root at first. Anderson round the wicket, bowls. Oh, he's bowling! Playing no shot. Played no shot. I tell you what's hitting about Midland leg, looking at the way the stumps are leaning there. What a misjudgment from Latham. It's just gone straight. Hit middle stump.
650 for Jimmy Anderson. And absolutely, Aggers, that has hit middle stump. From around the wicket, the ball before perfection, the on drive, and then he just has a brain fade.
Up on the screen now, 650. Is it funny how you have these landmarks? Thinking numbers of times Jimmy Anderson's beaten the bat and had drop catches, and his 650 as the batsman playing no shot and saying, there you go, there's my wicket. That was a horrible misjudgment.
Yeah, what an achievement for Jimmy Anderson.
Oh, yeah.
It's remarkable, the want and the will to continue to play Test match cricket, still delivering such a high quality of performance. Yeah, if it hits the top of off stump, Alex Lees at Lords, Jameson just clipped the top of off stump. That has thudded into middle stump.
Yeah,
that's just he's been out there captaining for such a long period of time. Tiredness, Just not quite focused, just
But also-
switching off slightly.
Just caution and that apprehension about this innings. We've talked about how
Yeah.
important it is. We heard the cry there from the slip cordon. Third innings, boys, just to get into the head, but that was a massive misjudgment. I mean, Latham knows that Anderson round the wicket, the left-hander, generally tries to push the ball across just a little bit. So I
But
guess
this is
that's
a
what he was
pitch.
expecting.
This is a pitch that I just think you don't even think about leaving it. You know, that happens naturally. You've just got to be looking to hit the ball. It's not swinging, it's not seaming. You know, that ball did nothing. It was just the angle from around the wicket. It just went from wide of the straight onto
Yeah.
middle stump. A leg
Straight
slip.
ball.
So there's going to be 4 slips and a leg slip for Devon Conway. He does have a tendency to flick it quite fine on the leg side, so it's a good position that Ben Stokes has put.
What a start. Conway's first ball. Anderson runs in, bowls to him down the leg side, taken by Folkes. Arms are raised in the slip cordon. The crowd are cheering. But there's nothing from Anderson, who sweeps back his hair and reflects on yet another landmark in his incredible career. And the Trent Bridge crowd not merely clapping, but really slapping their hands together there. And, well, they love him here. He scored his top test score here, of course, but he's taken so many wickets on this ground, and the regulars here would have seen him bowl England to victory many times. That was just, I mean, looking again at the replay, that's hit middle stump full on. It's a hideous misjudgment.
I don't quite get it. The first 2 deliveries of the over, he played glorious forward defence. I'd like to see those 2 deliveries again, actually, because I bet you they're a bit wider than the one that he left.
Yeah. At what point you must have you ever done that?
Oh, I must have done, yeah.
I wonder at what point you know.
I don't
Oh
think
no, you think, oh no, I've had it here.
Oh, it's that, I don't know, it's just, you just hear, don't you, hear the rattle.
Do you think that's the first time you were aware of it?
Yeah, I'm sure I would have left the ball that hit off stump.
There's not a point when the ball, when you've decided no shot and the ball's just on its way to you. Do you think, I'm in trouble here?
Yeah. You know, well, it's only a short while after that you hear the noise. It doesn't take too much longer.
No, it sort of confirms it.
Yeah, off stump, I think I can get. You know, the ball nips back, but middle stump.
Middle stump's bad from a straight ball from around the wicket.
Particularly on a week like this, that the ball's not done a lot, you'd be just thinking play.
Yeah.
Make sure you're getting bat on ball.
What a start for England, though.
Can Stuart Broad get on one of those rolls?
It's a short leg, although he's a little deeper than the normal catching position. As Broad's on his way, bowls to Young, who's beaten outside the off stump. Bairstow there theatrically raises his arms and then urges on the crowd there to applaud. Nice ball, just around about that off stump. Moved away a shade. New Zealand 4 for 1, so effectively 18 for 1. Afternoon toughers.
Afternoon, Naggers. Afternoon, everyone.
Yeah, enjoying this.
Yes. What a start.
Yep. Broad again from the pavilion end. Runs towards us. Over the wicket he comes and bowls, and Young was on that front foot pretty early on and defends the ball. Picked up in the offside.
I was just listening there. Middle dolly, wasn't
Middle
it?
stump.
Middle stump.
That's quite a big misjudgment, isn't it? I mean, the ball did nothing.
No.
Absolutely straight.
I can remember Adam Hollyoake playing Shane Warne at the Oval, and Shane ran up and bowled one, and Adam went back and sort of left it like that, and it pitched middle and went on and hit the middle of middle.
Dear, that's not great, is it?
Shouldering arms.
Here's Broad, bowls to Young. Oh, that cuts back. And I tell you what, that wasn't far away. He played no stroke at that. Now, if that had hit his off stump from there, you'd say OK.
Yeah.
Because that had to come back a long, long way.
Yeah.
And he was right to leave that. But it really did come ripping back, and Young is now doing a lot of gardening down there.
Oh,
that must have hit a crack or something. Looking at the replay of it, that's come miles back. It's a wobble seam ball.
Oh, it's gone over middle and off.
Yeah, well, if that bowled in, then you just say fair enough.
Yeah.
Broad could hardly believe it either.
No, and then Adams come back into the dressing room like that, and he's sort of, all quiet.
Bit disappointed.
Yes, and looked up at the replay on the TV.
Here's Broad again, bowls, and Young gets one outside the off stump. He just took his bat out of the way of that. The crowd. Really tense moments this for New Zealand's batsmen. They've got everyone against them. More gardening going on, looking very tentative.
Yes, so Adams looked up at the TV in this sort of hushed dressing room and just gone, I think I might have misjudged that one. We all just burst out laughing.
What else can you say?
There you go. It's just nipping a bit, isn't it?
It's these clouds. Trent Bridge is always like this.
Is it?
You get some low cloud.
Yeah.
A bit of a humidity sort of feel to it. Ball moves around. Leg slip now. There's 3 slips. A gully, leg slip, short leg. As Broad runs in hard again, bowls outside the off stump, and Young can allow that to go through. Broad looks to be in that sort of mood. His knees are raised as he runs in, and that's a sign. If he gets a wicket, it can be really dangerous here. It's a good crowd for a Monday, but by no means a full house. And I know I've said it, but if there's any way you can come down, I don't think you'll regret it, because there's a lot going on here.
Pitch might have just woken up a tad.
Broad moves in, bowls, Young defends. On the back foot, it's fielded by Anderson, trotting in from cover. And applause for Broad, who produced that one really quite striking delivery in that over. Came back a long, long, long way. 4 for 1.
Almost like a leg break.
Yeah.
I mean, that wasn't just a bit of seam movement. I think you're right. Must have hit a crack.
It's something.
Yeah. I mean, it just almost 30-degree angle.
I see Win Viz, which I know is varied, and it does its own thing. But actually, just to mark where it's showing at the moment, it's got England at 37%. New Zealand, I think it was 4. But it swings. I mean, it's like a windsock in a gale. That wind Viz goes all over the place. But that's.
I don't know who's giving it, feeding it.
No,
because. Yeah, some strange results come from that.
Lights on, Conway's on strike, Anderson's bowling to him, and he comes forward, and that almost goes into his stumps off the inside edge. It rolled just past his wicket. Very, very fortunate indeed.
But I mean, you know what it's like. You've had a long day in the field, and you've been out there for how many overs were New Zealand out there for, being sort of flogged around Trent Bridge and running for balls. You're tired, you're mentally tired as well, and then you've got to go out and bat. And if you can, if England can just get 2 or 3, anything could happen.
Anderson runs in, bowls. Conway's almost bowled playing no shot.
Wow. What is going on out there? It's jagging around like nobody's business.
Folks took that way down the leg side, and that just shaved past the off stump. So he played no shot. So I think it swung after it bounced. I don't think it did much off the pitch. I might be wrong, but it looked to me as if it was a kind of fairly straight ball. Cut back a little.
Yeah.
4 for 1.
Something's happening.
Anderson bowls, and Conway snatches his bottom hand off the handle as that one lifted. Fielded at square leg. 4 for 1. Latham out. Playing no shot. There are some little cracks, looking at quite a close-up.
And sort of little tufty bits as well.
There are. It doesn't look. It was absolutely pristine.
Well, it's had a bit of traffic on it, hasn't it? There must be a bit of something going on.
4 for 1. Latham out. We've been bowled by Anderson, who now bowls hit on the pad. Field flag before wicket. The umpire says no. A little bit high maybe from here. They're not going to review it, but that's a nasty stinger there on the inside thigh for Conway. Giving it a rub. I think we'll see at the replay that would have gone over the top, I think.
Back thigh.
Yeah.
Inside thigh. Ouch.
That really stings. A new ball in there.
What a great invention that was, the inside thigh guard.
Always seem to miss though. Anderson bowls, and that's a lovely shot from Conway. He's pitched up, and he's taking the opportunity to drive him down the ground. Potts in pursuit, and the ball just... He's done very well there. He's done a roly-poly save. Hope he's okay. And throws the ball back again, having stopped it by a foot going to the boundary. He hurt his... No, it's Lees, actually. It's not Potts. And they ran 4 anyway. Well, that's where diving like that on the boundary does seem a bit crazy.
Clattered into the
They've still got 4 anyway.
Advertising boards as well. Look, he sort of launches himself over the sponge and then cracked.
He does really hard on
mid-shin.
Ooh,
Ouch.
that will hurt. Anderson bowls, and Conway's another pad. Now that looks straighter to me, a bit lower, but no, umpire Rifle not happy. It was a bit fuller, that one. And Rifle says no. Anderson walks back to his mark again. That just looked a bit fuller. It didn't look like it bounced quite so much.
Again, hit him on the back, inside thigh, back leg.
Well, there's some gripping cricket here because that straight drive for 4.
This one looked better. Oh, it's exactly
Still
the
up on
same.
the thigh, yeah. It just looked a bit lower, didn't it?
Yeah.
Anyway, give a nod out. The lead is 22. Conway has 4. Young yet to score. And the captain Latham out playing no stroke for 4.
Well, it's usually about 30 overs with this ball, isn't it? Before it gets it gets a bit soft and things become easier. So England have come out. Nice little session though up to lunch, isn't it? As a bowler, you've got about 40 minutes.
Especially when you're as experienced as these two.
Yeah.
If you're younger, you can get a bit overexcited.
Yeah.
Perhaps wasted a bit. Broad's on his way and bowls to Young. Covers up, defends, picked up that short leg, and there's no run. You can get carried away, can't you? But these two are so experienced.
Yeah, been there and
Been
done
here
it.
100 times. You can sort of rein all that emotion in, the adrenaline. Broad waits for the ball to be returned to him by his partner Anderson.
Anything to report, John, last night? Anything? Get up to much?
No.
Just home?
Just very quiet.
Yeah, nice.
As it
Lovely.
was. 8 for 1. Here's Broad. Bowls outside the off stump with a grunt. Nothing from Young. The only I would report was that our smoke alarm went off at 4 in the morning.
Oh, no.
And it wouldn't have been a great sight.
No.
Because you've got to somehow get into it. And so I was trying to watch a YouTube video as to how to get into the smoke alarm. Nothing was on fire at 4 in the morning. And you got to wade through the adverts on the YouTube video. I was not happy, I'll be honest. There was some, Here comes Broad, bowls again. And Young, he just took the bat away from that, I think.
Nibble.
Just took it away, it moved away. Little nibbly sort of poke there from Young, who goes gardening.
So you were sort of standing on a chair in your dressing gown with a broom.
I didn't have a dressing gown on, but what they expect, the manufacturers expect you to have, by the bed, presumably, as ours was upstairs, a sort of flathead screwdriver, which they expect you to poke into an orifice that you can't see because it's dark, which you then prise off in order to turn the alarm off. No, it was tough as you would. It was not a pretty sight.
No, scrabbling around.
8 for 1. In goes Broad again, bowls, and Young forward, fielded at short leg, and all the time with a piercing scream of the alarm going off. Anyway, so no, since you asked, a little bit of a restless,
a bit weary,
restless night.
A bit broken sleep.
However, we've got lots to look forward to, not least the cricket. We've got a look back at 1986 here, New Zealand winning their game and coming up at lunchtime.
Oh, what was Jeremy?
Jeremy's going to be here. We're going
was
to
he skipper?
Hadley. He was.
Yeah.
A very proud day for New Zealand cricket, quite rightly so. Now, at tea time, we've got Matt Root coming to talk about Joe.
Oh.
So it'll keep us going, for sure.
Absolutely.
8 for 1. Broad, cloud overhead, little gap of blue sky up there. Comes in, bowls, and Young's edged it. Doesn't carry to Bairstow, who fields at third slip. There's low cloud everywhere, apart from a little hole. That's 1 o'clock.
Sailor's trousers.
What's that?
Don't they say?
What, the sky?
They say that,
What, the little hole in there?
Yes, they say there's enough blue sky to make a pair of sailor's trousers. I think that's right, isn't it?
Never heard that before.
Haven't
But,
you?
well, you might well be right. I've never heard of it.
No, I'm getting the thumbs up. I'm getting the thumbs up.
Really?
Yeah.
Broad again comes in, bowls, and that's clipped away firmly down the ground, and it's just beaten a bit on fieldsman. It's Jack Leach racing after it. Don't dive, Jack. Don't dive. No, he doesn't. That's a good thing. I always get a bit scared of that Jack on the boundary. 12 for 1. The lead is 26. There's 20 minutes to go until lunch, and that look back to 1986. Tougher, some thoughts from you. And then Simon Mann's coming in here.
I'm sure that's right. But hey ho, I'm sure we'll find out. But it is doing a bit. Jimmy Addison and Stuart Broad have come out and just put it in good areas, and they're getting swing and seam, and haven't really seen that for the last, crikey, we've been here 3 days already. Haven't seen it move around like this, so there could just be a bit of something in the surface, just moving a bit. You would give me a thumbs up about the sailor's trousers.
Yeah, I've
so.
heard that expression.
Thanks.
It's well worn, well known.
I thought so.
They don't know much up in Leicestershire, do they?
No. Well, Andy gave me a sort of a blank look as well.
Or in South London. 12 for 1. We've had 6 wickets this morning so far. Here is Anderson bowling to Conway, and Conway turns that way into the onside towards mid-wicket, and there is no run.
So England bowled 145 overs in their first innings without hitting the stumps. Jimmy Anderson managed to do it in the first over of this innings. Also took New Zealand till right towards the end of the innings before Bolt bowled out Pot. So there's 270 overs without the ball hitting the stumps, and we've had it twice this morning.
Well, no one can catch. You might as well try and hit the stumps or run them out or stump them. We've had a few of those this morning. Here's Anderson bowling to Conway. Conway is nice and solidly forward there, playing it back down the pitch, and there's no run. Yeah, we had all sorts of dismissals this morning.
Yeah.
We had the first 17 wickets in the match fell to catches, and then we had a run out, and then we had a bowled, and then we had a stumped, and then we had a bowled.
Shenanigans was going on.
Absolutely. Yeah.
All going on here at Trent Bridge.
England 539 all out. They lost the last 5 wickets for 66 this morning. I made it. Root out for 176. Folks run out for 56. Anderson, lots of close catches, goes in and bowls to Conway, and Conway's forward, struck high up on the thigh, front thigh.
Getting peppered, Conway, just in that back thigh. It's about the
back,
third.
might have been the back thigh.
Yeah, the third one, and sort of hip area. Yeah. Ooh, 3 thudded in there.
Get 2 before lunch.
Oh, wow,
then,
lovely.
And perhaps Jack Leach might get in the game this afternoon. It's dry out there. There's been some turn.
There's a lot of left-handers in this.
Yeah, 4 in the top 7 are left-handers. One's gone already.
Yep.
Anderson bowls full to Conway on the pads, flicked away towards deep backwards square leg. And they change ends for the first time. They do. 13 for 1. New Zealand 27 runs ahead.
In fact, there's lost 5 wickets from when you mentioned the score for the morning as a whole. From when Root was out 5 for 23, and then Latham was out with the score at 4. So we had 6 wickets for 27. Up to that point, been 1,069 for 15.
Oh.
The game's changed.
Yeah, I hope so.
Back to Lords, isn't it, this morning? That's what was happening at Lords. That's a clatter of wickets.
It's only the 3rd test played in England out of 541 games in which both teams have made 525 or more in first innings.
How many, sorry?
3rd.
3rd. In England. 13 for 1. The lead 27. Well, one of them was the Headingley Test match we talked about earlier in this game, where Pakistan and England both made 500. Here's Anderson bowling to Young. Young is forward, dabbing it into the offside once. A single broad is equal to that. Rushing forward to pick up. And there is no run. And when was the other? What year was it? The other one?
Well, so this is 525. I think
I see. Not more than 500.
There's been a few more over 500.
Oh, I
but
see,
525
right.
specifically. Pakistan, England at the Oval in 74. 600 for 7 Pakistan. Zahir Abbas, 240. England made 545. The game was drawn.
Anderson bowls, and Young gets the bat down just in time on that, plays it towards short leg, and there's no run. It was in that series, I think, 74, when Zahir made those runs. There was the Great Guardian headline. I mentioned it before, but it's always worth a reprise. The Great Guardian headline, "Happy days, Zahir again." Fantastic headline, that, isn't it? You could retire, couldn't you, after a headline like that?
And the other game where both teams made over 525, one of the dullest tests ever played, Old Trafford in 1964. Australia 656 for 8 declared in 255 overs. Triple century for Bobby Simpson. I think Tom Cartwright on Test debut, 2 for 118 from 77 overs. England replied with 611 in 293.1 overs.
Which year was that?
64.
64.
Ted Dexter, 174.
Good game to be on TMS, that one, Thomas.
Wow.
Barrington, 256. Australia in their second innings, 4 for 0 off 2. Game drawn.
I feel exhausted just listening to it.
Right, 13 for 1. And it's
leg slip.
Conway to take strike from Broad. Short leg slip, 3 slips, Gully. England on the attack. Broad round the wicket, bowls to Conway, and Conway gets one down the leg side. He tries to flick away and misses, and it's taken by Folkes. Yeah, the reason for the happy days Zahir again was because he made a double 100 in 1971, I think it was, and then another one in 1974.
Good, like that. Good headline. It's always handy when your name lends itself to sort of, Tufnell was always quite good, you know. Yeah,
Another tough day in the field.
Well, yes, or when the going gets tough.
Tough luck.
Tough gets going or something, yeah. Tough love, yeah.
Broad bowls, and Conway pushes that one and misses, and it goes through to Folkes. Broad stands there. Hard to believe his luck there, or lack of it.
You're right. England just need, just the odd one of these, just to brush an edge. They're beating the bat.
Went past the inside edge. They're poking out at it.
Yeah.
Scrambled seam from Stuart Broad.
Well, I suppose when you're sitting in the dressing room and you watch your opener sort of leave one and get your middle dolly knocked out the ground, you start thinking, well, I better play a few of these instead of just watch them go whizzing past.
Back with Broad, striding in to bowl to Conway, and Conway hits it uppishly through mid-on for 4. It's going down the ground. You say it's going to go for 4. You can say it with a great deal of confidence, I think, on this surface. It's outfield, because most things that are struck firmly head to the boundary. It was in the air through mid-on. Anderson chased it for a while, but no chance of stopping that. 17 for 1. New Zealand 31 ahead.
We've already had 4 fours in this innings, one of them all run. In the first innings, the 2 teams combined for 163 boundaries, 10 sixes and 153 fours. That's the joint 6th most boundaries scored in the combined first innings of any Test match.
It felt like it, commentating, is boundaried over. It felt like sometimes 2. Broad bowls, Conway is forward, defending into the offside towards extra cover. And there is no run. Conway 9. Young on 4. New Zealand under pressure here. They're just feeling the pressure at the moment. England know if they could knock the top off this New Zealand innings, then it's still a long way to go to New Zealand to save the game, even in these what have seemed to be relatively benign batting conditions. But the lights are on. It's overcast. 3rd innings pressure. Broad to Conway, and Conway plays that forcefully away into the offside towards Leach at extra cover, and there's no run.
That 163 boundary figure is also the joint most for a Test in England in the 2003 Oval Test, England-South Africa, a fantastic match. And South Africa made nearly 500, England I think made 600 and won by 9 wickets in the end. Early in Michael Vaughan's tenure as England captain, also 163 boundaries in the 2 teams' first innings combined.
Yeah, that was a game in which Marcus Trescothick made a double 100. I think it was Alex Stewart's last Test match as well. 17 for 1, last ball of the over coming up. Broad bowls to Conway. Conway gets a ball that leaves him, but he leaves it as well. And it goes through to Folkes, and it's the end of Broad's over. Well, it's been good from Broad and Anderson. They've been probing away. And there's some genuine tension in the game after the frivolity of yesterday. Excitement and all the runs scored. It feels like we're back to almost that proper Test cricket at the moment. The bowlers asking some questions of this New Zealand top order. So a job to do for Conway and Young here.
Well, New Zealand haven't got much of a tail either. I mean, I was just looking at our tail. It reminded me a bit of the 90s. I mean, with the likes of Jimmy and Broady, they're not great. But what have they got? Jameson injured. Southey gives it a whack.
Henry and Bolt.
Yeah.
Anderson bowls. Young clips that into the onside towards mid-on. No run.
Yeah, so if you can just get down to the likes of Mitchell and Blundell.
Well, Mitchell, the problem with them is they tend to put huge partnerships together, but you feel they must fail sometime or other.
Exactly.
236 in this match, 195 in the last game. But you have got a left-arm spinner to bowl on a pitch that
odd one's turn
might offer something this afternoon against the right-handers. Anderson bowls to Young. Young dead bats that into the offside and gets a run to the left of Broad. moving towards lunch on this fourth day. 18 for 1 New Zealand.
And it can be quite nice just when the odd one's turning, because it's very difficult then, you know, if you're holding a good line and a good length, just to come forward, because if it just skids on, you get thumped in the pad, and then you play slightly outside the line, and the odd one turns and can get the edge. So sometimes it's a nicer pitch to bowl on than one that's just completely turning all the time.
Yeah. Anderson round the wicket to bowl to Conway. And Conway edges this over the top of slip. Was he trying to leave that? I think he was, and the ball took the edge and flew down towards the deep third boundary, and that might well have gone for 4. It's been knocked back inside the rope. Folkes returns it. Conway's come back for 2. He inspects his bat. They might want to check that. It's possible it was stopped and knocked back inside the rope in time by Root. But, Root is hoping he's saved 2 runs here. Just seeing the replay. Dive full length. Well, that won't tell us, actually, because I can't see the ball, hand and boundary rope in the same shot. We're just checking it. Again,
right.
It's hard to tell from the angles we've got at the moment, and therefore a delay.
I think that's okay.
It might be okay, yeah. The crowd are applauding the big screen. They decided it's okay.
Yeah.
It's up to the third umpire, Rod Tucker, to say it's 2, not 4.
Still got some energy in the legs. Yeah. Joe, that was a great sprint and full length dive to scoop it back.
And a strange shot as well from Conway.
Oh yeah, almost shoulder the bat.
20 for 1. Anderson bowls to Conway, lets that hit him, and it comes off the thigh pad. It goes down towards the fine leg, but Conway knew he hadn't played a shot, so he didn't bother running. 20 for 1. New Zealand's lead is 34. In different conditions today than the ones we've had on the first 3 days of this Test match. First 3 days blustery, got the sunshine around. There's a bit of breeze today, but much stiller. And cloud cover, more consistent cloud cover. The lights are on. Conway waits. Sees Anderson approaching. He's with him now, and Conway tries to turn that away, and he ends up dropping the ball at his feet. Short leg fielder steps forward to pick up, and there's no run.
Yeah, there's just the odd one. That's really lifted. Sorry, just looking at the.
We're just looking at the replay of the one that went over the top of the slip cordon.
That has almost.
Was it glove or was it?
Well,
was it shoulder of the bat?
Shoulder of the bat and a bit of glove, but that's almost sort of just disturbed the surface, gone through the top a bit. Back of a length delivery, but then just kept on climbing.
New Zealand 34 runs ahead. Anderson bowls to Conway, and Conway hits that firmly way off his hip, down towards deep back of square leg. Jack Leach is there. Sends in the return to Folkes. Leach, who bowls
I just
left
saw
arm
that.
and throws right arm. Can you throw with your right?
Absolutely not. Absolute rubbish.
I'm left-handed as well. It would be awful trying to throw with my right, but Leach just bullets it in over the stumps.
Yeah, the Tamal Mills is the same.
Yes, that's
right.
Left-handed throws. Kevin James was one as well. You've got to keep your eye on them in the field, actually, because they can surprise you.
My son as well, bowls right,
really?
throws left.
Well, it's just something not right. How can it?
You're presumably you're one of those real left-sided people,
well,
are you?
No, not really.
No?
You know, I had 2 great feet. You know, I was left half. My dad said, "Oh, fantastic left half." I can kick with both.
Kick with your right as well, can you?
I can, yeah.
Broad, new over, bowls to Conway. Conway lets it go. Conway's on 12, 21 for 1.
Could have been the next Ryan Giggs, but with the right foot.
But you played cricket instead.
Well, there you go. Mark chose wrong there.
You batted right-handed. I mean,
batted
batted is the right.
But that's natural to bat right-handed if you're left-handed. If that doesn't make doesn't sound
top-handed
odd.
player, top-handed player.
Top hand,
but the throwing, I mean, that is really quite. You would have thought that. With your precision of your bowling and your strength and your coordination to bowl spin, you would have thought
you'd throw left-handed.
Yeah. You would. Weird.
Broad to Conway. Conway dead bats that. He seemed to keep a fraction low there, the way Conway played it into the offside. No run.
There must be a name for that. I'm ambidextrous, I know, but I mean there must be something a little bit more to it than that, because that is strange. I wonder if he can throw left-handed.
Well, whether Jack Leach can.
Yeah. If he can't throw left-handed, I reckon he's bowling with the wrong hand.
That could be his problem, Toppers. He's really an off-break bowler. The Rod goes into bowl to Conway, and Conway leaves the ball outside the off, goes through low to Folkes.
Back in the day, we were witches, weren't we? Or left-handed people.
Well,
Sinistra,
yeah,
I think.
Sinister and dexterous, yeah. Dexter in Latin and sinister, is it? Or sinistra?
Yeah.
Or is it? I'm mixing up my languages now, I think, but yeah.
Left-handers.
21 for 1. Broad at the far end. Pavilion behind him. 3 slips, gully, short leg slip. Moving towards lunch, Broad bowls to Conway, wide of off stump, just leaving him a fraction, but it started wide. So Conway didn't have to play at it. Conway so far in this series,
not quite.
46, 13 and 3. I mean, last summer, of course, we saw him come out and unfurl that debut double 100 at Lords.
That was opening the batting, wasn't it?
Yeah. He was last man out, run out for 200 in that test match last year at Lords. Broad looking for a wicket, goes in, bowls to Conway, and Conway plays the ball outside the off stump. He might have left that, but he decided to play at it just with the angle. Again, no venom in the shot, it was purely defensive. And Leach picks up.
Been a bit unlucky, England. So they bowled really well. They've been right on it, Broad and Anderson, as you'd expect. But they have extracted some movement out of this surface, and unlucky not to get another wicket.
Last ball of the over coming up, and then we will have time. It's just coming up to 1 o'clock. I think we will have time for one more over before the break. Broad bowls to Conway, and Conway drives nicely. That's a fine stroke. That's going for 4. Up towards wide, long off. Beautifully struck by Devon Conway. Actually, in keeping with so many of the shots we've seen in this match, I don't think I've seen a game where so many strokes have been so well timed.
Pure, so pure. I mean, you don't get too much purer than that. It wasn't a flourish, it wasn't a wild swing, it was just pure timing.
He held the pose, and then he decided to jog just in case, but I think he knew, everyone knew that was heading off to the boundary.
We did a lovely thing on the highlights show, which you'll see tonight at 7 o'clock, about Joe Root and Tim Southey. There was like a small box just on a length outside off stump.
Yeah, I had a look at it. I was in the box downstairs, I was watching it. Go on, I'll just tell you that Matthew Potts is coming on. It's 25 for 1, last over before lunch.
Yes, and so there was 3 replays, and the ball, the ball landed in exactly the same spot. But Joe Root's shots were one through cover point, glorious, elegant, extra sort of cover drive. The other one was an outrageous shot past mid-on, and then the other one was a ramp that went for 6, and the ball landed in exactly the same place. I mean, as a bowler, you just, well, good luck. How'd you set a field to that?
You just try and conjure something up with the 11 you've got, don't you?
Yeah, you do.
Here's Potts then, bowling to Young, and Young gets the bat down in time on that one. It was homing in on his off stump, played it down to the slip cordon, no run.
And that's what I've noticed about this game more than any I've seen for a long time, is that the boys were just hitting it where the fielders weren't. You know what I mean? Sometimes, you usually take a few slips out, strengthen the ring and perhaps have one on the boundary, but wherever they went, it was just whizzing past them, wasn't it?
Indeed. 25 for 1. New Zealand are 39 runs ahead. Leg slip for Potts as well, bowling to Young. And Young plays defensively on the banks towards short leg. A lot of interest and excitement from behind, but that looked like a perfectly safe and solid defensive shot from Will Young. So yeah, highlights tonight, 7 o'clock, BBC Two. Plenty already. You can see the action that's happened already this morning on the BBC Sport website. 6 wickets have gone today.
Batting masterclasses. You've seen a couple of batting absolute masterclasses.
Young on 5, waits for Potts. He goes bouncing in to bowl to him, and Young turns that away past short leg. He'll get 1 here, and he'll have to settle for 1. There's Jack Leach and lobbing the ball in right-handed to Ben Folkes.
Yeah, if you're a young boy or girl and you want to know what batting's all about, have a look at them, because it was just poetic. And how to do it.
And Root today, so disappointed to get out.
180, was he?
176, shaking his head,
Yeah, what have I
furious with himself.
Well, he actually got done, didn't he? It was a good bit of bowling, actually. He got done a bit by Trent Boult with a slower ball outside off stump.
Drove it to cover, where Southey took the catch. Folkes was run out for 56. Broad, a very good catch by Mitchell at slip off Bracewell for 9. Potts bowled by Boult for 3, and Jimmy Anderson stumped off Bracewell for 9. Potts bowls. Conway defends. Back down the pitch. Picked up by Potts, and there's no run. So we've got silly mid-on now. In for Potts bowling to Conway, and a short leg who's quite deep. And 3 orthodox slips and a gully.
Is that a silly mid-on, or is that a short mid-on?
Well, short mid-on. Halfway between the two, probably.
Yes, it is.
He's sort of in the batsman's eye line, or the non-striker, who's young, to run round him, actually, to complete the single. Potts bowls. Conway plays a fiddly push into the offside, gets a single. Big gap there. Broad lopes after it. Realises that there was an easy one. Doesn't overextend himself. 27 for 1. And these two, if they can negotiate this delivery, just feel they've settled things down a bit after the early loss of Latham, and some appeals for LBW, and the edge over the slip cordon from Conway.
You just get the feeling if one of those had just gone up England's way, that...
Yeah, pressure builds. 41, New Zealand's lead, with 5 sessions of the match left. Last ball before lunch, Potts bowls to Young, and Young gets a ball on middle stump, which he pushes into the offside. Potts picks up, and that is the end of an action-packed morning in which England were bowled out for 539, and New Zealand have responded with 27 for 1. The lead is 41. And Conway and Young have done quite well to hold on there against some good sustained pace bowling from England. We've also seen 3 or 4 ravishing strokes as well, mainly from Conway, who's 17 not out.
Yeah, it's been
in the
exciting.
morning, 93 runs, 6 wickets in 23.2 overs.
There's your money.
England will be hoping to have something similar this afternoon.
Absolutely, but they'll have some encouragement by that. You know, as a bowling side, you kind of know what the pitch is going to do, and there's been runs everywhere. So they've come out there really positive, put it in the right areas, and created problems. And it'll just make the lunch slip down a bit easier. That at least there is a bit of something there to work with, and if you just keep, sort of your skills and your disciplines, there is just that little bit more for the bowler. But I think it's going to be this ball again. They've got to get 3 or 4 quickly here until it gets to about 30 or 40 overs old, because it then becomes hard work to get anything off the straight.
The wicket that did go, Latham leaving a ball from Anderson that cannoned into his middle stump. You don't see that happen very often. Normally if a batter leaves it, it nicks off the off bail, something like that, hits the top of off stump, but left it and hit the middle stump. So Anderson with 650 test match wickets.
Ooh, that's a lot.
4 overs, 1 for 13. Say that again.
That's decent.
Yeah. Broad 4 overs, 0 for 12, and Potts 1 over for 2. So lots of action in that morning session. The crowd have enjoyed it. Not a huge crowd in at Trent Bridge today. Completely different atmosphere today. The sort of the exuberance of the weekend, and then very much a sort of quieter, calmer Monday crowd today. But they've seen a lot of action so far. I think England disappointed not to get a lead, and they did lose 5 relatively quick wickets. I mean, they're up around New Zealand's total, but I mean, their plan this morning would have been to get a lead of minimum 60, 80, something like that.
I mean, in the back of your mind there is that, but at the end of the day you've got to get bowling as well, haven't you? You've got to get bowling, because that's how you're going to try and win the match, by bowling that in the second innings. I mean, if it had come off, if Joe Root was the key, they managed to get rid of Rooty pretty early on, didn't they? If he'd have kept going, that would have been ideal, but not to be.
Yeah, Root out for 176 and England's 539. So they were 14 runs behind on first innings. And New Zealand at lunch, 27 for 1. New Zealand have only ever won 1 test match on this ground. It happened in 1986.
He's here.
And Jeremy Coney was the captain of New Zealand for that Test match. John Bracewell scored 100, and his nephew is playing in this game. But we're going to look back at 1986. Now, what were you doing in 1986? Can you remember?
I just joined Middlesex as a whippersnapper, earring, long hair, creating havoc. Yes, John Bracewell, the off-spinner.
Yeah, he got 100.
Yeah. Used to be a gravedigger, you know. John Bracewell.
I didn't know that.
No, he did, yeah, he did. Yeah. You'll hear the stories from Jeremy, yeah. Very strong hands, big strong hands.
Anyway, Jonathan's coming in.
Yeah. Jeremy was telling me that story last night, funnily enough. And there you go. Yeah, good Test match that for New Zealand.
Certainly was. I hadn't realised, and we'll hear about it in a second, that David Gower finished it with a throw.
Oh, did he? What buzzers?
He threw it. Just threw it. As he was bowling, threw it, and he became the first England player to be called for throwing in a Test match in England. I'd forgotten about that.
I didn't even know that.
There you go. So don't go anywhere, Tuffers. We're going to. That's the sort of quality of this lunch interval that's coming up. All sorts of little bits and pieces coming in that we've forgotten. Go and have your lunch. Go on. So we're going to look back at that Test match. Played here in 1986, and the reason it led to the historic first series win in this country for New Zealand, with our old friend Jeremy Coney as captain of New Zealand. First of all, though, let's check on today's LV County Championship. Kevin Howells is still at Taunton, watching the leaders Surrey take on Somerset. Kevin.
Hello, Jonathan. Yeah, we've got some decent weather, I'm pleased to say. It's nice and dry. Fairly warm as well, because it's been a bit nippy, hasn't it, with the wind in the last week or so, but some decent weather for hopefully some decent cricket. And Surrey's planned, certainly on this second day, to bat out the second day, having bowled Somerset for 180 first innings yesterday. Well, Surrey, after the morning session, have got 151 for 2, with Rory Burns going nicely on his 97 not out. Got Jamie Smith there on 2 at the moment. It's not quite the card as it reads, though, because we need to point out some things that took place, if you like, before the start of play this morning. Hashim Amla of Surrey unable to take to the field. He was the not out batsman, or one of them, overnight, but I'm afraid he was unwell, so unable to return to the middle this morning. Ben Geddes, therefore, went straight out into the middle this morning for Somerset, having yesterday lost Josh Davey because of concussion. So a sub introduced to the game, Casey Aldridge. I'm afraid they lost another player to concussion. This time it's Craig Overton. Now, he took a blow, both of the deliveries actually, which, if you like, got rid of Josh Davey, which he ducked into a delivery from Jamie Overton. Well, Jamie Overton also bowled the ball, which in the end saw Craig Overton initially have to leave the field for concussion, came back on, but then this morning, I'm afraid, was unable to take to the field again. So another replacement brought in. This time it's Marchant de Lange. So a couple of sub-fielders, or should I say replacements, because of concussion for Somerset, which doesn't help their cause, of course. However, Marchant de Lange, along with Tom Lammonby, have bowled nice and tightly in around the 45-minute period before lunch, and in the end Ben Geddes was removed. He was caught at first slip, just stuck in his crease, and he was moved off the bowling of de Lange on a catch by Lewis Gregory, the only wicket to have fallen after about an hour and 40 minutes of play this morning. So Surrey still trail. They're nicely positioned at lunch on day 2. We'll run down 7 other matches to bring you the scores. Yorkshire against Hampshire at Southampton. This is an important game. It's second versus third, with Yorkshire eventually all out for 428. Dom Bess was 51 not out. George Hill, that 131. Brad Wheel taking 4 for 59. The game in Birmingham between Warwickshire and Lancashire. Warwickshire all out for 292. That included Sam Haines, 130. Wickets shared around, including the very experienced first-class bowler from New Zealand, Will Williams. On his Lancashire debut, he picked up a couple of wickets there, but Lancashire 72 for 2, therefore trail by 220 runs. The bottom 2 teams meet at Canterbury, where Gloucestershire made 438. Glenn Phillips with a 125. You notice there's quite a strong New Zealand field to this scorecard. But anyway, Kent in reply of 41 for 1 there in the first innings. And again, can't believe this, I'm not making this up, obviously, because it's a scorecard, but it's from one match to another where New Zealand players are standing out. This time it's Rachin Ravindra with a double 100 for Durham on his debut. 217 in a Durham, a total of 481 for 7 against Worcestershire. Middlesex versus Derbyshire. Middlesex, the leaders of the second division, all out for 251. Derbyshire 134 for 2 in reply. Sussex, this game in Cardiff against Glamorgan. Sussex 376, Glamorgan 5 for 1 in reply, and then Leicestershire versus Nottinghamshire. They're at Leicester, where Leicestershire were all out for 440 centuries for Lewis Hill and Colin Ackerman, and for me, quite an exciting all-rounder by the name of Ben Mike, who got himself a 78 in that 440, but Nottinghamshire in reply are 21 for no wickets. So there we are, plenty of New Zealand mentions in the county scorecard for this lunchtime on day 2.
That must be the first case ever of one brother concussing another, isn't it?
It's not so good, but very serious, of course. We wish him
Yes.
a speedy recovery. But Jamie was actually asked last night, what was it like bowling to your brother and actually causing such problems? He said, well, basically, he didn't play it properly, did he? So, brotherly love on the field, I guess.
Yeah, OK. Lovely, Kevin, thank you. Every ball, of course, is available on the BBC Sport website and the app. Here at Trent Bridge, 27 for 1 is New Zealand's second innings total so far. They lead by 41. Latham was out for 4, playing no stroke, to Jimmy Anderson to give him his 650th Test wicket. And they'll be back here again in about 25 minutes, I would say, or thereabouts, to continue that game. So, as promised, we're going to look back at that famous game here at Trent Bridge. It was played in 1986. It was a victory which led to a historic first series win for New Zealand in England. We'll hear from the man of the match, Richard Hadley. We'll hear from Gladstone Small, who made his debut in that game, and of course Jeremy Coney, the proud New Zealand captain that day. But first, Andy Zaltzman, how about putting us into context? I mean, how big a deal was it for New Zealand cricket?
Well, they generally really struggled in England up till that point. They'd lost 8 of the 9 series that they played in England. The exception was a 0-0 draw in 1949 when all the tests were only 3 days long, and they'd lost 17 of their previous 21 tests in England. They'd won 1 match, that was on the previous tour in 1983, and the balance of power between England and New Zealand had been shifting. New Zealand beat England in a test for the first time in the 1977-78 series. It was the 48th game between the two countries, and New Zealand's first win. That series was drawn 1-1, and New Zealand had been a fine side for some years. They'd won 8 of their 13 series in the 1980s. They'd beaten Australia home and away in the previous year. They'd beaten England in New Zealand in the 83-84 winter, and they had in their team Richard Hadley, who we'll hear from later. And in the 1980s, up to the point of the game here, he'd taken 215 wickets in 38 tests at an average of 18. So that balance of power had been shifting. England had had a difficult year. They'd been hammered 5-0 in the West Indies, and they'd lost 2-0 to India in the first half of the summer.
Right, thank you, Andy, very much. So, well, the man of the match was New Zealand's most famous player, Sir Richard Hadley, someone, of course, who was so popular here at Trent Bridge after spending a decade playing for Nottinghamshire. And he's been sharing his memories of this 1986 Test match by speaking to the club's website.
Yeah, 86 was a good one. Of course, I've been playing at Notts for about 7 or 8 years for a starter. And so I was well aware of English conditions. And so when that Test match came, I was pretty well prepared and looking forward to it. In some ways, it was a home match for me. There was always going to be a bit of Nottinghamshire support from members and supporters and others. And they gave me a good welcome, a fair welcome, being a member of the opposition. We bowled England out for 256, so that was a pretty pleasing result. And on that day, I managed to get 6 for 80. So to get a bag of 5 wickets on your home ground is something to cherish. And when we batted, we got to 413. So we got a pretty good lead. John Bracewell was scoring 110, and then I managed to get 68 with the bat. So I was starting to have a bit of an all-round impact on the game, if you like. And then we bowled England out for 230, got 4 wickets in the second innings. So that was 10 wickets for the match. And I didn't actually know it at the time. When I was doing a bit of research on that particular match, I found out that it was my 7th 10-wicket or more wickets in a match, which at the time equalled a world record that was held by S.F. Barnes from England and Clary Grimmett from Australia. Clary Grimmett, of course, was a New Zealand-born cricketer who went to Australia and obviously played for Australia. And my great friend and foe, Dennis Lilly, had also done that feat. So I was in a nice little bracket of achievers, if you like. So that was pretty pleasing. And we only had to get 74 runs to win the match, and we won by 8 wickets. But the game had a peculiar finish to it because David Gower was given the ball to bowl the last over. And he bowled a ball. In fact, he didn't bowl it, he chucked it. And it was a no ball, got hit for 4. So when you look at his bowling stats, no deliveries, and conceded 4 runs. It was really one of those anomalies in the game of cricket.
Oh, and he's thrown that one, and Crow's hit it. And will it reach the fence on the fall? It does. It's 6. Or is it 4? I saw a signal over there from somebody. It's 4 only. So he's 48 rather than 50. And in fact, it was a bit of a gift ball from David Gower. So 77 then for 2. And New Zealand have won by 8 wickets, with Martin Crowe coming back 48 not out, rather, and Jeremy Coney 20 not out.
It was a great win for us, and it helped us win the series for the first time in England. We drew the other test matches. We drew the last one at the Oval, which was important. So to get that series win, it was significant in our history. And even in 1983, when we came over, we didn't play at Trent Bridge. But we won our first ever test match on English soil at Headingley, went on to lose the series. But we were starting in our history throughout the 80s in particular, we were winning more offshore. And that was giving us more sort of credibility and respect, if you like. So to win that test at Trent Bridge, go on and win the series in 86 was another ticking of the box, if you like.
There's Sir Richard Hadlee talking to the Nottinghamshire website about that famous game here in 1986, August the 7th to the 12th. Just a run through the scores. England 256, New Zealand replied with 413, with that 100 from John Bracewell. Richard Hadlee scored 68, Evan Gray scored 50, the middle order, if you like. A useful 26 from Derek Sterling down there batting at number 10. England's second innings, 230 all out, more wickets for Hadlee. He took 4. John Bracewell 3 for 29, and then those runs knocked off New Zealand 77 for 2. They knocked off in 24 overs. Martin Crowe 48 not out, and certainly Jeremy Coney, the skipper, 20 not out. He's sitting alongside me. That must have been was that your proudest moment, winning that match, winning the series?
We had enjoyed. No, I guess I wouldn't say it's more proud than beating Australia in Australia. They're all good victories, aren't they? I think as a nation that hadn't had many, that Richard's pointed out, that everyone counted. But coming to England, of course, England we always regarded. We tended to glance towards England, I think, as a nation in terms of cricket originally. And so we learned, that's where we were looking to learn, this is how you play.
Right.
We had longer tours, of course, coming to England. We didn't play against Australia very much, really. We had the 1946 test, where they came to New Zealand and played at the Basin Reserve. Actually, a game that it was so green, apparently, they cut a new pitch on the morning of the match.
Wow.
And Richard's dad, Walter, was captain of that side, and he won the toss and batted. Not quite his best decision when they were bowled out for 46, and so it went from there. So Australia decided not to play us again for 27 years, till 73. So we actually played against England a heck of a lot more. You'd come to Australia and then you'd move on to New Zealand, if you remember.
Of course. It always felt a bit of an add-on, though, that.
It was a wee bit. And sometimes it wasn't the main side. One player had come back home or something like that.
Yes, exactly.
But we still looked to England for our game, for that period.
And did you look to England as the team to beat then? When you wanted to beat England,
absolutely.
Possibly more. I mean, I know you in Australia had this tremendous.
We do now.
We
do now.
But England, it seems to me, for most countries, was the team to beat because cricket started here.
That's right. The resources that you had, we looked at that, rather with some jealousy. We'd like to have had those resources ourselves. We didn't have professional players, really. I mean, there was the odd one that would come over. but, you know, the Glenn Turner kind of style who came in the 60s over to England. He'd do his little milk runs during the winter to get money to come over and play over here. And then others began to follow, Jeff Howarth and John Parker and so on. So while there was a professional component, it wasn't very important. There weren't big numbers in the New Zealand setup. But we did look to England, you're right.
And you drew. So the first game was drawn at Lords. Of course, I mean, you won. Of course, you won the
we'd
previous.
already won in. You see, we'd won in Australia.
Yes.
At that stage, 2-1. We just were presented the team.
Right.
And I did wonder how we would get people out.
Yes, we'll go through the bowling attack in a second.
So there was that, and there were people who had pulled out of the side. John Reid was our new number 3, and he wasn't there. He was a very good player of spin bowling. And if Embury and Edmonds, who England had at that time, had bowled a lot against us, I wondered, gee, who would handle and cope with those questions they would ask. So Reid was missing. We didn't start. You know, it was. As I look back now, I think it was a sort of a series of overcomings, because we lost our manager immediately to illness, and he went home. We lost. I thought Hadley and Chatfield would form the basis of the seam attack. Well, Hadley didn't. We struck a bargain with Richard that it was his benefit year. He didn't mention that on the. So he was not playing. He became the manager for the tour. Yes, and Bruce Edgar became the treasurer. Our tour bus, our tour bus was broken into. It was a wonderful tour bus, I've got to say, and but a lot of personal belongings. All our camera equipment was stolen down in the south. Hove, I think, down in that area, so we
extraordinary start.
Yeah, it was really, and then Ian Smith went home for family business and so on as well. So we lost another player there. It wasn't easy to get through that, and we had a lot of also quite distinct social groupings in the team. We had a lot of older, more mature players who had, you know, been pressed into service for more than 20 tests and knew about the rigours of touring, and then we had no one in between, and the young group, which, you know, probably half the side had only less than 5 tests. And we had bowlers in particular, they had been cast aside. Some of the more experienced players weren't included in the tour, like Gillespie and there's another fellow I remember to a right arm. Wasn't selected, so we had a 20-year-old Willie Watson, and we had a 19-year-old Brian Barrett as well. And we had Derek Sterling, who was a tall and strongly built.
Blackhead.
Yes, he did.
Yes.
But sort of didn't quite have the control, variable control. So they were going to get plenty of chances and opportunities, and the hope was that 2 of them would come through, or at least one. But that wasn't quite happening.
No.
But what it did mean is that our spin bowling department, which was John Bracewell, who was becoming more of an attacking bowler, becoming almost a more senior member of the side. Could he handle that responsibility? Yes. And then we had Evan Gray, because Stephen Bock didn't come on the tour either. So was he good enough at both? Would he become a little bit of an all-rounder? Like John Bracewell, both could bat a bit. So there was that element, and they did a lot of bowling because the seamers just weren't responding to the opportunities.
It's a hard work tour, and you've got Sir Richard then, who's absent for much of it because he's playing here in Nottingham, showing his benefit and so on. Who obviously, I mean, you name your attack. I mean, this is he's standing head and shoulders in terms of quality. How difficult was that as the captain then? How do you handle when you've got this stellar quality bowler? Is there a temptation to over bowl him? Is there a temptation just to kind of do what he wants? If he wants that end, yes, of course you can have that. Do you want to do that? Do you want to bowl now? Well, or I don't know if Richard was like that, or whether he would just want to bowl all the time. How do you handle someone who really is, or around whom the rest of the bowling attack is
completely
formed?
Well, it had to be a bit that way. I mean, that's, you don't like to think that it is that way. And in fact, you know, I remember at the end of the first Test match, Mike Gatting was the captain in that series for England, and he sat on a little table fielding questions from the press, rather predictable questions and so on. But then one came along and he said, "What's it like facing Hadley?" And he sort of sat there for a moment and he said, "Well, it's like facing the World 11. at one end and the Ilford seconds at the other. Ilford, what's that? A little community into the east of London?
I think it might be
on the south,
Gat
maybe.
lives, I think. Yes, it's London club side.
And he was getting his point across that Richard was obviously a difficult and a fine bowler, and that's fine. But it had the feeling about being a one-man team again.
Yes.
And we had heard that many times.
But you weren't. Clearly.
Well, no. And we suddenly, it became a kind of a catch cry and a motif for the tour. And it sort of was a binding component, you know, that...
Come on, the Ilford
Come on,
seconds.
Ilfords. Yeah, exactly. Come on, Ilford. You'd hear that in the field.
Sure.
You'd hear it at warm-ups, you know. And then John Bracewell went out and had a T-shirt made up with the Ilford Second 11 1986 Tour of England. And we put mug shots of all of us onto the T-shirt, which were worn, you know, every time we warmed up and so on, we would wear these T-shirts.
What did Richard think of that?
Richard, well, he wasn't there for most of the time, but he didn't really mind. I mean, it was saying that he was a fine player, and he was primus inter pares, you know, first among equals.
Yes.
And I basically, of course, I gave him the end that he wanted. He had played here a lot. He knew the grounds, and so on. So yes, we would sit and talk with myself and Richard and Glenn Turner, the manager. He was still there, and so we would talk about what the number of overs, kind of as a guide that he would bowl. We tended to bowl him in shorter spells, but quite a few, so he was always sort of ubiquitous.
Yes.
And then we tried to fit in around it. The good thing for New Zealand was that Bracewell and Gray stepped up and started to play a much more senior role in that team, so I would use them a lot more.
Well, England had a debutant in that match. That was the Warwickshire fast bowler Gladstone Small playing his first Test match.
Gentlemen, how are you? Jeremy, how are you?
Very well indeed. I was expecting to hear some of you taking your wickets there, Gladstone, but never mind. I'd love to hear from you. We were going to have, because you took some wickets in there, didn't you, in that game?
Well, yes, it was my debut, and obviously being a county, playing many county matches at Trent Bridge. And I was warned by the senior Warwickshire players, the likes of Dennis Samis and David Brown and these guys, say, "Oh, Gladdy, it might be a little bit different when you get to Trent Bridge for a Test match than when you go there for a county game. Because generally when you got there for a county game against the likes of Rice and Hadley and Kevin Cooper and a bunch of seamers that Notts had, you couldn't discern the playing strip from the rest of the square. You remember that well, I guess, because until the groundsman sort of put the stumps in, you didn't know which pitch you were going to play on. So it was a bit of a shock when I turned up on the Wednesday lunchtime, as we did back then playing for England. We finished a county game on the Tuesday, and then you made your way to the Test match venue on the Wednesday, the day before the Test match. And I, obviously being keen, I arrived there really early. I was there like 8:30 in the morning, and no one else was there. And I put my cricket coffin in the best spot in the dressing room, which was right by the window, a great view of the ground and the silken things. And I remember the room attendant coming in and saying to me, "Oh, young sir, I wouldn't put your bag there if I was you." And I said, "Oh, well, I'm first in here. I'll get the first." Okay. So then the rest of the guys kept coming in. The rest of the players kept coming in. They all said the same thing. "Oh, Stoney, you better move that bag out, fella, because there's a certain gentleman about to be coming in just before the bell goes. At 11 o'clock, we were due to be there." And sure enough, at about 2 minutes to 11, in step one Ian Botham,
oh dear,
who were just coming back from an absence from the game, shall we say. And he took a look in the corner where I was and said, "Whose bag is that over there?" And just swiftly stepped over everyone else and got my bag and chucked it over the other side of the dressing room. So that was my introduction to Test match cricket.
Well, settle back, because we found this clip of you taking some wickets, Gladstone.
13 runs have come off this over from Small. Still over the wicket at the moment, the left-hander, past umpire Palmer. He bowls to right, well pitched up on the leg stump, and he's caught at square leg. And Gladstone Small has got his first wicket in Test cricket. Wright can hardly believe it, furious with himself for turning that off his toes in the air, and it went pretty well straight to Bill Athley, just backward of the square leg umpire.
There you go, Gladstone. Well, you trapped him. You trapped your first one.
Hey mate, they all count. They all like some half volley to well set. And John Wright was a wonderful player. Played against him a lot. Played for Derbyshire, and he was a wonderful player. Really, got set when he got settled. He was a very hard fellow to dislodge, and obviously I listen and watch a lot of the cricket these days, and I've noticed today Jimmy Anderson he got his wicket there. He was around the wicket.
Yes.
I mean, in all of my years of bowling in first-class cricket, I would have bowled about 2 balls around the wicket to a left-handed batsman. Because back in my time, when we played Tigers, it was about pushing the ball across the left-handed batsman, getting nibbling outside the off stump, and then getting one to come back into his pads to get him out, trap LBW or missing a straight one. That was how we tried to get him out back then.
Yeah.
Or bowl the like some half volley like I did.
So you say they do all count. Just on Richard Hadlee, I mean, here are us talking about Richard Gladstone, and Jeremy can answer this too. Do you think there's anybody in sort of contemporary or almost contemporary cricket who bowls like Richard Hadlee did, Gladstone? Have you seen anybody similar to that?
He was, I mean, his stats would tell you what a great bowler he was, and luckily I was able to watch him bowl, and I actually modelled the two best bowlers I saw in my time in cricket was Richard Hadlee and Malcolm Marshall. I mean, they're for me, and he was one that Richard Hadlee was a guy who I looked to, and I actually shortened my after the years of trying to bowl as fast as I could, and suddenly realizing the more you got, the more experience you got, realized it wasn't all about bowling the ball fast. It was bowling the ball repeatedly in the right area of the pitch that caused top batsman problem. And I looked at someone like Richard Hadlee and saw how he did it and the skills that he had. And I cut my run up down to about 20 yards and used rhythm as my guideline to bowling. And that's what I did for the rest of my career. So, and even today, if I speak to young fast bowler about fast bowling, the last thing I leave him with is say, listen, get yourself a video of Sir Richard Hadlee and watch how he operated, and that's the best advice I can give you about trying to bowl fast. I mean, he was superb.
Last one from you, Gladstone. Do you remember what it was like after that defeat? I mean, it's your first test. And I wonder what it was like in the dressing room to walk off. What was the atmosphere like around you?
Yes, I mean, it was obviously not the way you want to finish your opening test match, and I mean, it was just simply so Harlock boys. You have a bottle of some sort of beer that was on at the time, and then you got off to your next county match, really, and then we'll see next test match. It was there wasn't because it was a hard fought test match. We bowled a lot of overs in the first innings. I think we bowled about 160 odd overs. I bowled almost 40 overs in that first test match. So it was a signpost to how tough test match cricket was, that's for sure. You had to earn your wickets on tough pitches.
Gladstone, it's great to talk to you. You bowled 38 overs, you took 3 for 88.
Take care, Gladdy.
We catch you up during the summer, buddy.
Yeah, look forward to it.
Bye-bye, Gladstone. Cheerio. There we go. That was Gladstone making his debut. It must be. I mean, the atmosphere was interesting, isn't it? Because the England boys would have just packed their stuff up, disappointed.
Well, they're going to another game.
Headed off.
That's right. It's exactly right, and that's why we didn't really see quite as much of the England side, because they were so busily heading off and straight away to other games that they had to go and count. And so a Test match didn't quite have the build-up, I would guess, Well, it is a guess, and
Well, you
it's
would, as Jackson
speculation.
said, you would turn up on the Wednesday lunchtime.
Yes.
You wouldn't know if you were playing or not. You'd have a net. The selectors would wander about. There'd be a fielding practice. There would be a dinner that evening, which the selectors would attend. They would then leave, and the captain would then address the team. And you probably, well, in my case, still don't know if you were playing or not. And you would wait anxiously till the next morning when they decided what the 11 would be and whether you were in it. It was nothing like it is today. And yeah, I think that of all the things, that's something that really has changed a lot. But when you're on tour, it's different, isn't it? And especially this sort of tour, I can imagine, knowing you and many of the others actually who are named here, I bet you had a really good team spirit, actually.
Yes, we did.
A really.
We also had a week.
Ilfords.
We had a week.
Yeah.
Prior to the tour, the commencement of the tour, which is Arundel, which again was a kind of a bridge between practicing and then moving into the tour proper, which was a nice
social scene.
Absolutely, it's a lovely place to go to.
Yeah.
So we had a nice little build-up. We stayed at the Waldorf, and we'd start at 6:55, and there'd be the run. It would be taken by Chatfield, and it would be taken by Bracewell. We'd meet in the reservoir in the area down there. And away we'd go, and it was a dawdle for them. Of course, the rest of us were heaving.
Yeah.
And they'd run us around London, and then we'd come back, and then we'd go to the nets at Lord's. We'd go for another run through Regent's Park and that area as well, and then we'd finally have fielding and so on. So they were quite busy days, and setting the standards for the tour for the players.
But how two players, squad players, became these senior management positions. Is
we had
remarkable.
lots of that sort of thing to do.
Yeah, I talked about the bowlers, and you know, Willie Watson became actually a decent
bowler.
He did, yes, he bowled lots of overs. The batsmen, of course, people will recognise the names of the batsmen. Bruce Edgar, John Wright, Martin Crowe, of course, Ian Smith.
Yes.
You know, that's a decent batting line with you in there as well. That's a decent batting lineup.
Yeah, we were looking for a number 3, as I recall, because of the absence of John Reid. It was going to be the Ken Rutherford to go into 3, or a guy Jeff Crowe, of course, Martin's elder brother.
I was wondering where he was. So he hasn't quite yet emerged yet.
No. So that was an area again of some debate. And giving chances to them in the tour matches to say, come on, let's see what you can do here. So, and that's what you're trying to do, and that was the wonderful thing about an England tour. An England tour, you could develop a player. You could suddenly have at the end of the tour, you've got a new man that you could take back, and he was part now of the international scene. So, and that's what you wanted to build. It was that length. They're just not like that nowadays, the tours.
I've got to share. You might not like this, Jeremy.
Right.
Well, there are mainly good memories for you in that game, but not all of it went totally to plan for you.
The delivery has Coney coming forward and again playing with the spin. Well, there could be a run out here if Coney doesn't get back the other end. Is he back? No, I think he's run out. Coney run out. As Crowe called him through, Coney slow. He didn't want to go, but Crowe insisted. Said, come on, come on, come on. And in the end, Coney was sacrificed. He raced to the other end and he didn't make it. Gladstone Small, I think, picked it up and lobbed it back to the bowler's end. And Martin Crowe is mortified. He's turned his back on his partner. He can't look him in the face.
Oh,
see, there you are.
There's another one here. So we've had 3. We had Geoffrey Boycott covering his face up. We had Potts today covering his face up, and Martin Crowe covering. Sacrifice, Jeremy.
Yes, I had to. He kept on coming at me, coming and coming.
Because that's the interesting thing again.
And also, he was very fast.
Oh, was he?
Martin Crowe. Yeah, he was. And so when you get a differential speed, the opportunity to be run out is increased, of course. And so, he and I had a few little issues.
But it's interesting because he got Hadley, the standout bowler.
Yes.
I mean, Crowe then would have been a standout batsman, wouldn't he?
He was certainly starting to perform really well.
Yeah.
Yes.
So these 2 really top class cricketers. Well, at the end then, the Gower throw. He just came on. It was his first ball. Mike Gatting threw in the ball.
Yes.
And he chucked it.
I don't know whether that was just let's get this over and done with, and a sort of a semi-jokey thing that sometimes David would do.
Hit for 4.
Yeah, hit for 4 and the end of the game. Yeah, it was a wee bit weird.
Yeah.
The other thing I do recall is Edmonds bowling with a white wrist watch.
Oh, is that game?
Right, wristwatch. And then Martin, and so he was sponsored by, it was a sponsor. And so Martin asked him to take it off. You know, he said that's distracting.
Yes.
And so we'd get a single, and I would then face, and I would say, "Excuse me, could I have him put the wristband back on, please?" So then he'd have to put it back on to bowl, and then we'd get a single, and Martin would say, "Look, he's got to take that off." And it was actually quite fun for the two of us to do that, especially to someone like Phil Edmonds.
Well, I was going to say,
he didn't like it at all.
Especially if he's sponsored. Oh, Joe, it's a nice story. Thank you so much.